Right. Random watching. Basically, 20 minutes, 10 minutes ago.
That's why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
But really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Wait,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
You're hosting,
Welcome to your
motherfucker.
book club at the DGen Roundtable. My name is Zenith, and I'm joined by my excellent co-host, Will Stevenson. He is not hosting, but he is producing today. Therefore, it is on me to do the talking about. Anyways, happy Friday to everybody out there. Welcome back to another installment. Will, we are on episode 66, baby. And I got to say, I think we picked a dense topic for tonight. It's like all of economics. So I put it in the chat earlier, but pretty much if you have read the book and you sit through our lecture series here, then DGen U will award you an associate's degree in economics because, like, my God, she thick. This book by the way, is Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. It is a very, very good, in my personal opinion, just synopsis of like everything you need to know to get you off the ground and get you pretty advanced in a lot of the different areas. It talks about everything just from like basic supply and demand, incentives as reward structures, different kinds of economies, even international trade, tariffs, protectionism, all that stuff. And I will admit, I didn't quite finish the book. I had like 15 minutes to go, but it was on the part that is just the history of economics. So it was not any economic lessons themselves, just telling you about the evolution of economics, which, by the way, is still a very good chapter.
Bro, motherfucking same. 15 minutes and 4 seconds is how much I had left to
Yeah, apologies to Thomas, but we didn't quite get through modern economics. We talked about all the good stuff, but we didn't quite get there. So, Will, how you doing, buddy? How you feeling after this 24-hour audiobook or 23-hour and 45-minute audiobook?
I'm doing great. And like a lot of the stuff that he talks about in the book is super easy to digest. It's like everything just makes perfect fucking sense. And you know, I really like this Basic Economics book just from a like if you don't know anything about how economies work or how like the basic transference of money works or like taxes or trade or any like this book just covers all of it. So we normally ask this question at the end of the shows, like, where would you rate this book in like a 0 to 10,000 hours? Like, where should I read it in my journey of like, I know nothing all the way to I am now like a guarantee certified expert. Like, I would say that this book, like as dry as it is, this book should probably be read around hour number 5 to 10 is my.
I agree. The only reason it's not hour 1 is because I'm worried that we'd scare people off if we slapped it to them first.
Yeah.
So maybe go read something fun like Rich Dad Poor Dad and then hop into Thomas Sowell. Get that good balance of like the fun, encouraging, inspiring entrepreneurial mindset, and then you're going to get that lesson.
Yep. Yeah. I for sure. So, like you got to eat the candy before you have the turnips and the broccoli and whatnot. Like this book does not really reward you for listening. It's not like he has a lot of great stories and he gives a lot of good examples, but like as far as like slapping like fucking giving you that heroin hit of dopamine or whatever the hell, this book's it's not exciting, it's not thrilling, it's not adventurous, it doesn't get you like all jazzed up and zazzed up, but it does like talk about a lot of the like really important core principles, which honestly like as far as I'm concerned, that's like the substance that I like. I don't really like entertainment. I don't really like the zazz or the emotional ups and downs. I'm more of like a logic and flow kind of guy. And so like this book was pretty damn good, bro. And I liked it a lot. It was great. Good selection. I would have never chosen this had you not like said anything about it. I would have never once thought to look at it. It'd been like, oh, that book looks boring. But it is kind of boring, but it's full of great information. So like,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
a
no,
I'm
it's
a
great.
order
I will
order.
say where it lacks in that zazz or the appeal, it makes up for the fact that you could legitimately use this book as just like a good reference for if you ever have a question about any of the topics. Literally, just go to the table of contents. All the sections are listed about what they talk about. Odds are, if you are like contemplating something going on in your life or like some political event or governmental decision, like you could literally just flip to the chapter that has that as the topic and be like, oh, let's go see what Thomas says about this and how we go to get into the trade offs of it.
Bro, when we were also like before we like launch into everything, like I was looking at the edition, like I looked it up on Audible, and I remember you saying that we're gonna do the fourth edition, and there's actually a fifth edition that's 28 hours long. I don't know if you know about this, but I looked it up on Audible. It was like Thomas Sowell, fifth edition, 28 hours. I'm like, that's not the one. Zenith said it was 4 hours, and I'm pretty sure he said fourth edition. And lo and behold, the fourth edition, 4 hours shorter. It was like that was the one that I ended up going for. But yeah, bro, there's another edition that's out, and
I recognize the fourth edition one because that's the physical copy that I own.
yeah.
I think they have different covers, but I mean they're variations on different Polish flags. They're all red and white, top and bottom.
Oh, they are
Yeah, pretty much.
easy peasy.
It's either that or they're red and black, something like that.
And
But
before we launch into the show, you and I are having a little bit of a this is a whiskey Friday, isn't it? We're both drinking today, which is much needed because we just listened to because I'm pretty sure you listened to it on 2 times speed. Because I
two and
noticed
a
as the
quarter.
as the day was going on, you and I were quoting and putting in about the same parts at the same times. And so I was like, oh my God, Zenith is like 30 minutes in this book ahead of me right now. I better bump it up to 275 speed so I could catch up or something. And then like as you
Oh
were
my
as you were
god.
quoting things and putting things in the chats, I was like, oh my God, I had just heard that thing. So that was super funny.
Competitive speed listening. There you go.
Yeah. Well, I had neglected to listen to it throughout the week. I had totally forgot about it. And then Whiskey Wednesday happened. And then I was like, aren't I supposed to make some sort of announcement? Oh, fuck, we got book club. What's the book? Oh, no. I was supposed to read that thing. And then, I got a little bit of it in yesterday at work, and then the rest of it today, like while I was doing cleanup and things of that nature. But anyways, enough about me and enough about our thoughts and feelings. What's the thing you want to do next? Do you want to do chat shout outs? Do you want to do a little summary of
It's
the book? What's your
you
thought?
mentioned the topic, but we didn't quite finish it. Good sir, what are you sipping on tonight?
I am sipping on I've actually got oh man, I forgot. Hang on, let me turn off my green screen. I
Green
was doing this.
screen
Yeah,
garage
green
beer.
screen. I'm drinking green screen garage beer, guys. So check it out. Turn on the nun. There we go. So this is garage beer.
Hey.
It's I don't know where it comes from, but I got it from Albertsons just a little bit ago, and I like to take the lids off of my beers so that way I can just drink them out of the can. And then I save these and I put like nuts and bolts in them. It's great. But I'm drinking garage beer, classic lime, 4% alcohol. I don't know what's so fancy and special about it, but it was bright green. And I'm like, I like bright green. That's neon color. And that also means like candle number go up. And also it's like nice and bright and I can see it. So I selected me some garage beers, and then I've got some caffeine so that way I can stay nice and alive during the stream. So one of the things I learned about caffeine is it doesn't give you energy. It's there's adenosine receptors inside your brain. Your body produces adenosine, which is the tired chemical. Like dopamine's the happy chemical. Endorphin is the whatever other like love chemical. All these different chemicals. Adenosine is the tired chemical, and your body produces it as you like do stuff. So like the more like fucking curls you do, the more adenosine your body produces. And all that caffeine does is it just bonds to your adenosine receptors in your brain. So it's basically just like, nah, I'm gonna hop on in there instead so you tired chemicals can go away. And so your brain's like your body is still physically tired, and you as a person are actually tired. The only difference is that your brain's like, I'm not tired. And so it's just like you're walking around with fucking blinders on the whole time. So I'm drinking some adenosine reactor filler right now. Whenever it comes out of the coffee maker, it's always too hot, so I always pour some water in it. So I have some watered down coffee and a delicious garage beer. What are you sipping on, good sir? on this
Uh,
Whiskey Friday?
I probably look like a raccoon hoarding stuff out of the dumpster. Just finished my monster for the day, and then I also was sipping on a Arnold Palmer, and then I had some of it left. So then I added some vodka to it to give it the old hard style. This is a little glass I got in my travels. It's very difficult to see, but in the bottom, it's indented to represent the Swiss Alps, which is super cool. But yeah, today we didn't have any Tito's left, so today we just have Smirnoff Original. So it's got some bite to it. I'll say that much.
Yep. I think that the Smirnoff I've got, or no, it might not be Smirnoff. I can't. No, I have Bacardi. Ugh, disgusting. I have Bacardi Lime up there. Actually, hang on. You have an Arnold Palmer right there, right?
Yes.
You know how? All right, keep talking. I gotta step outside and grab something. Let me know if my comms cuts away. But you know how I'm a huge Liquid Death fan, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Liquid Death, they came out with a delicious beverage, and they actually got sued by the Arnold Palmer Foundation. And I'll show you why, because I'm like digging through all of my goodies right now, stored away over here.
Fair enough. I do have my third beverage of the evening though, which is I'm still working through the 30 rack of Bud Heavies in the Star Spangled cans that I had on 4th of July. So I tried getting the 30 rack and then leaving it at my friend's house as a joke, and he's like, no, you take that with you. Granted, this is also after I discovered that my friend is a whiskey collector and allowed me to sample some fine whiskeys that evening. And then he's like, no, take the trash. Take it.
Oh, get that crap out of here. We don't want none of it. That's funny, bro. I like that. So on the subject of collecting things, for those of you that are familiar with Liquid Death is a sparkling water company, and not only that, but they're something of a whole bunch of hooligans and shenanigans and like master marketers, and also like the guy who does all the graphics for them. Like it's nothing but like death and morbidity and other such things. Like that's their logo and everything. But you mentioned Arnold Palmer. Liquid Death made an Arnold Palmer type drink, and they called it Dead Billionaire. It's fucking tea and lemonade. And
that's a hell of a name.
They made Dead Billionaire in response to the original drink that they were selling, which was called Armless Palmer, which is the same thing. So I have a case of the original Armless Palmers. Before, like as soon as I heard that news, bro, I like rushed out to the grocery store and I was like, oh my God, I got to pick up a fucking case of this because they had to pull it from shelves, and they were getting sued by the Arnold Palmer Foundation. And
you're a drink speculator now, huh? Gotta get that memorabilia while it's cheap.
Yeah, dude. Well, so I thought it was cool. So I love Liquid Death, right? You guys probably already know. I talk about Liquid Death all the fucking time. I got two Liquid Death watches. I've got a Liquid Death snowboard. Like I'm a super big fan of all the stuff that they do, and they make cool like sparkly water, and they do some master troll marketing. So they've got their Dead Billionaire. It's basically like it's the tea lemonade stuff, but this is the one that they made after they got sued by the Arnold Palmer Foundation. So this is what they changed their name to. The original case, which I still have one of those, is called the Armless Palmer, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. So I've got a case of Armless Palmer and Arnold Palmer. But anyways, enough about drinks. Let's talk about
we got one more welcoming pleasantry to get through before we get to the good stuff, if you will.
Oh, do we have to do this thing?
Absolutely.
It's time for chat motherfucking shout outs, ladies and gentlemen. Take us away, Mr. Z. Oh, I'm the producer. I got to click on these. You ready, bro?
I'll read them, but you click them, brother.
All right, here we go. We're going to start off right.
DGen Roundtable, like, tot, smash button. Thank you, Will, for the excellent fat finger there.
Yep.
After that, I think yep, sure did. One. After that, we got our first DGen of the evening, Mr. Slide 180 with the cheers. Cheers to you, sir. Happy Friday. Another week well done. By the way, shout out to Crypto Black Sheep. He was in our book club chat when Will and I were posting all of our quotes, saying what's up and posting some good memes in there. So that was kind of funny to listen to. But yeah, shout out to him as well. Wish everybody
they did their little word of the day giveaway today, and it was economics. So I convinced him to do #economics.
That's right. The man, the myth, the legend, streams every day. Been doing it for almost 5 years at this point, I want to say. Wild stuff. Anyways, Agent J, one of our very own, he says the left hates Thomas Sowell, but he's black, so they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Yes, that is one of the kind of interesting things about Thomas Sowell. He is definitely on the right of center when it comes to the political spectrum. So he's largely attacked because he's a very public figure and he talks about economics and political issues a lot, race being one of them. And so it's kind of like this weird thing where they feel weird. They're like, you're a racist. And he's like, I'm black.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
He does talk about in the book. He talks about like apartheid problems over in South Africa. So I think that he's like his family's from South Africa or Zimbabwe or Rhodesia, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, shout out to Thomas Sowell. He's a cool cat.
He's a real one. Moondog coming in with some love and light. Good to see you, brother. Hope you're having a great Friday. We're about out of daylight where I'm at. I don't know about you, Will.
Oh, I still got daylight, bro.
Ooh, very nice, very nice. Miss Amber Simon coming in here saying hello. I apologize. I probably like butcher your name half the time calling you Amber Simone, but either way, we're still happy you're here. RH Max coming in says you guys don't try to be thousandaires. I know what you're talking about.
Ooh, I'm not trying to be a thousandaire. Ooh, that's cool. Where'd you get that, bro? Is that from?
I got it from RH Max.
Oh, that's kick ass. Shout out to RH Max. Thomas Sowell is awesome, indeed.
This is one of the if you ever have a chance to snag a t-shirt from RH Max, do it. The t-shirts are made out of like that jersey cotton, so it's like super soft, feels good, light, love it. Plus the messages and the logos and memes that he puts on the front are always a banger. Up next, we got our boy Centurion54X, aka 54 Cent. He says, "Hola, Degens. Hola to you, sir. Hope you're having an excellent Friday." And Kaido. He roasted me for messing this one up on the last one. Either way, the man, he says, what's happening? What's happening is we are spending a good Friday evening talking about economics. I think someone was like, hey, do you want to go to that concert in the park thing? I said, no, I got to stream. They're like, what for? I was like, oh, book club. Talking about economics. And they looked at me like I was a nerd and they left. And I said, suck it.
Hey, we're here. We're having a good time. I was going to say we're here, we're queer, we're whatever that chant is, but I decided against it. We're here. We're having a great time. We're covering books. We're covering economics. We're hanging out with our 16 best and most favorite friends. Y'all are freaking awesome. We've got 80 y'alls on the YouTube, 8 on the Twitter. We love each and every single one of y'all. So keep it up.
Shout out to all you guys, and shout out to everybody on Replay Gang. If you have any comments or questions, leave them on the YouTube video. We'll hit it up either there or in the Telegram. Or this one might Hey, there you go. Hey, you gave me the shirt. I wear it. This is honestly one of the shirts that's like in my rotation. Like, I got like 3 black t-shirts. This one, my Coast Guard shirt, a few grunt style, and that's really about it.
Oh, we've got another chat shout out here. Mr.
Ramon, aka Conspiracy Crypto, saying sup fam.
What's up, Ramon? Good to see you, broski. Oh, can't stop, won't stop. What's the chant? What is RH Max talking about? Do the chant, do the chant. Is there a chant? I don't know anything about this chant. Oh, we're here, we're queer. Oh man, there's something else. I don't know how
we're queer,
it goes,
we're almost out of beer.
We're here, we're queer. We're almost out of I am almost out of beer. I'm gonna have to crack another one too. Like this is number 2 for me. Number 3. We're not even like 20 minutes into stream. I'm already fucking almost 3 beers deep. Yeah, we're here. We're queer. I'm gonna have to look that up. Let me Google that real quick. See what
Tell you what,
up.
while you're doing that, I got something I want to share.
Ooh,
if you don't mind pulling up. Yes, sir. We were going over to RH Max's profile because the PulseX Conference 2025 is coming up here. Day 1 is, oh gosh, I think it's the 14th of July.
Zoom in? There we go.
Max, please let me know if I'm getting it wrong. PulseX Conference, 2 days going on, starting out at 12:45 EST with your boy RH Max leading off. We got Blockhead, Crypto Coffee, RG3, Hexgeta, The Benjamin, Cairo, Copeland, and a bunch other Top Gun Hexadian. Streamed with that guy before. Cool dude. Dude, this is a stacked lineup. And on day 2, we had our boy Fast Abdul. One of our very own, Brendan Anonymous Bean, is going to be talking about why PulseX is a superstar version of Uniswap. On top of that, we got even more coming through. There's a Sci-Vive panel. There's DJ Cryptomatic, the Benjamin again. And we're finishing it off with an excellent Pulse Chain panel featuring a lot of your favorite streamers out there. So yeah, July 14th and 15th, starting at 12:45 p.m. Eastern time, going all the way, finishing it off at about 7 o'clock. So big day. Catch it out. Unfortunately, well, I don't know what you're up to these days, Will, but I unfortunately have the day job still, so I'm unable to attend as much as I would love to. But either way,
Bro,
this is going to be a banger. Please show up. Please show your support. Irish
those
Max
are literally my
is a good dude.
last 2 days on this job site is Monday and Tuesday, and then like I like they might need me to help with like cleanup or some shit on Wednesday and do like a little bit of turnover. But like, yeah, dude, I was like, I was looking at my schedule and it's like, God fucking damn it, like so close. I could have made it, but you know, shout out to Max for putting on these conferences. It's freaking awesome. Man, I wish I could be there. Monday, yeah, this Monday and Tuesday is gonna be lit, bro. I wish I could participate. I would love to be on the Sci-Vive panel. So fucking, I'm with you guys. I'm with you guys in spirit. I fucking love me some Sci-Vive. That's a new shirt. I'm almost 3 beers deep. Hell yeah, I'm almost 3 beers deep, and then put a broken light bulb on it because it's a bad idea. Yeah,
Or you
wish
do
could.
top line. Top line says, "I'm almost 3 beers deep." A good start.
Yep, good start, baby. Something like that. You got plenty of stuff to work with there, Max. So I freaking love
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I wish I could make it too, man. I got the day job. I'm like, this is my final little bit of stacking towers and stuff. So after Wednesday, I'm all done on this job site. There's some new guys that are coming in to replace me that are less expensive or or they're more economical for my employer.
Oh,
So
they made some trade offs. They said,
they're
do
not
we want the high
yeah.
experience or do we
I
want low labor costs?
I should be clear. It's not my employer, so I'm on this job as like a contract helper guy. I'm not working for the dudes directly. They're just like, hey, we need some extra hands over here. And then they contacted my boss and they're like, hey, can y'all come over and help out? And we're like, sure. And then we come over and help out, and it's like, that's the price that they charge for Will and Mike. So so they're making some economic decisions, and I'm gonna go off to greener pastures later on. But yeah,
Hey,
it would
those
be
guys
sweet.
out there, this guy right here, worth every penny.
Hey, thanks, bro. I appreciate that. Fucking love to hear. And same with you, man. Same with you. If I ever got a project that I need managed, I know who to come find. So there you go. But yo,
Sounds good.
we've got
We're cheap.
we're not cheap. We are top $10.
Competitive.
I don't want to be no thousandaire, bro. I don't know about you, but I'm trying
Right.
to be a 10,000aire or maybe
Sure.
a 13,000aire. That's my goal for this crypto cycle, bro. If I can make $13,000, then I'm set for life. That's all I need for the rest of my days.
Feel like there are easier ways to get 13 grand, but all right. Fair enough. Tell you what, with that being said, let's get into the main topic for this evening, which is the book. All right, Will, I got a question for you. After listening to almost a full day's worth of an audiobook, what is the number one thing that Thomas Sowell incorporates into all of the economic arguments that he makes? What is the one thing to consider? His top line message for the book? In economics, there are no
Rules? I don't know, man. Um, I, I feel like I'm on the spot and I'm just like totally brain blanking everything.
I've said the word before. It's trade-offs. In
Trade-offs,
economics,
okay.
everything is trade-offs. You can't
Yeah,
just get more of nothing for free. There's always trade-offs in everything. No matter what the
Yes.
politicians try to tell you to say with their impossible dreams, there is always a trade-off for something.
You know,
We live in a
glad
world
that
of
you-
finite resources and scarcity, and economics is. Thomas Sowell would argue it's about finding the most efficient and economic ways to allocate those resources to the things that matter the most, that will maximize people's lives the best.
So the that principle is the tagline for the blog / AI book that I wrote about, like, the ledger's got a balance, man. It's everything costs something else. There is no free. There is no like
No free lunch.
dictate value into something, right? Like the cost of the dollar, the cost of time, the cost of energy, the cost of resources, the cost of trade, the cost of employees, and then the cost of like losing and the cost of not losing. You know, everything's got like a balance to it. I really love this book, man. And as I was reading through this book more and more, um, as I was absorbing it through my ear holes, I just kept thinking back to like when he would describe politics versus when he would describe economics, and I'd be like, "Holy shit!" And one of the quotes that you put in there, like, really like ran it home for me, and I was like, "Oh my god, fucking politics!" Because he compares and contrasts politics and economics quite a bit in one or two of the chapters, but he talks about how politicians solve for the problem of the right now because that's all that the people care about. you know, the people that are casting the votes. It's solving the problem of right now. It's not solving the problem of later. Economics solves the problem of later. And so when I was looking at the comparison and the contrastion between politics and economics, I was like, oh my God, it's immediate gratification and it's delayed gratification. So like the people that go around talking about the politics and the news of the day and getting hung up with like, oh, the Democrats doing this, Republicans doing that, the Tories and the Whigs, you know, all these different parties out here. I don't know, the Labor Party in Canada and the non-Labor Party, the Green Party. Fuck if I know. Uh, it's all immediate gratification. It's all just like, what do the people want right now? And then economics is like, what do they really want and what lasts long term? So like you can jump from focusing on like politics and all the short term and all the immediate gratification stuff, and you can go into the more like healthier long term gratification stuff just by learning more about economics and studying more of that life. So I thought that was really cool, like as we were
Definitely.
getting into the book. So like
Thomas
and
Sowell talks about the role of the
fucking
government a
trade-offs.
good bit in the book, because this book does talk about the different ways that countries can run economic systems and markets through different levels of governmental control, whether you have a more capitalist system like the United States, or you go straight up like single source control like communist or a Marxist economy. The two quotes that I had for this one was, one of the main differences between economics and politics is that politicians are not forced to pay attention to future consequences that lie beyond the next election. A politician whose choices keep their constituents happy up until the next election day is likely to be reelected, even if those decisions have ruinous consequences in future or later years.
Yep.
And the other one was, the cost of mistakes are bared by the taxpayer, but the cost of admitting mistakes lie squarely with politicians.
Mm-hmm. That's 100% true, man. The taxpayers not only like foot the bill when the thing happens, but they also feel the consequences. The politicians don't feel the consequences. I mean, they do kind of, but it's like just because they're a part of the whole big thing that feels it, like from a holistic perspective, you know, they're one little slice of the pie. But you know, something tells me that political figures have an ability to shield themselves from most of the bullshit that gets dished out to the rest of the pie and whatnot. But I really like that first quote that you did. That was the one that made me think of the short term gratification and the long term gratification. And then the taxpayers are definitely the guys that bear the mistakes. They fund the mistakes. They vote for them too. You know, if presuming that you operate inside of a Democratic Party, or not a Democratic in the sense of like Democrat Republican, but Democratic in the sense of like you vote for someone and they go up into a power seat, you know, um, then you get basically popularity contests, which turns into basically like, oh, what is sugar? What is candy? What do I love and what do I hate? Like what is sugar? What is poison? I'm gonna eat a bunch of sugar and I'm gonna say, oh, poison is terrible, horrible, bad guy thing, you know, and it turns into this like little religious doctrine thing. So like the folks get all riled up and then they get excited and then they're like, I'm choosing this guy. And then this guy goes and he does a whole bunch of things that sound really great in the short term, and then they fuck you in the long term. So I
Yeah,
suppose I'm repeating myself.
I think it's a Thomas Sowell quote that's not from this book, but another one that I think he had was that when the voters demand the impossible, the only politician that will suffice are liars.
Yeah.
But to your point about the
Voters
taxpayers
don't know what
bearing
they
the
want.
burden, yeah, that's true. Especially when there's so many of them and so many different ones. Also, and they might not even know what they're asking for technically. But
Yeah.
when it comes to your point about taxpayers bear their responsibility, it's not just that the taxpayers that voted for it bear their responsibility on stuff, like especially when there's governmental controls and systems to the size that they can actually shape economies overall. It's that, like, even today, we're still paying for the decisions made by the government back during the Great Recession, during the New Deal, and even the Great Society movement. All that stuff is still in place today. Notably, I think Social Security is the biggest one that really is sucking up a lot of the economy right now. But it's that stuff. It's the time horizons are very different, because when you can get to the halls of power, you are there for a certain amount of time, and if you're there, I mean, theoretically, you want to be reelected because you're doing a good job. But as Thomas Sowell points out in the book, that incentives are really one of the big motivating factors. So if you incentivize these people to get reelected, then the thing that they care about is getting reelected ahead of everything else, which unfortunately means long-term economic decisions, as we see here laid out.
And that's why there's like, you know, there's an argument against kings and emperors and things, but there's also like on the flip side, there's an argument for them. And he kind of makes the argument in the book when he's talking about brands and how like different companies, when the products are made by an anonymous product maker, then there is no quality control. There is no like, oh, where did this, poisonous Gatorade come from that I'm now drinking? Like, who do I go and complain to, and how do I know to stop buying poison Gatorade or whatever the hell? It's like when it's just energy drink and it's generic and you don't know who it comes from, then there is no accountability for decisions and things. But when you get people like monarchs and you get emperors and you get things like that, like they're held very accountable for their decisions because they're generally in a position of power for an extremely long period of time. It's like, think about the Queen of England, right? uh Lovely lady apparently, or something, I don't know. People like her a lot. She's a celebrity figure, but she never did anything like crazy, and I don't think that she really like ruled England, so to say. But there was a lot of positive, what's the word, like public opinion towards the queen. The queen has to be very careful about her reputation and the fact that she's in a seat of power, because she can't just like stop being the queen of England. The president swaps every 4 years. So with that sort of kind of like high turnover rate, you're going to get a lot of like, oh, people are going to just, they're going to try and jam something in there and get reelected, and then boom, they're gone in 8 years or something like that. But people that have to deal with the consequences of who they are and the political ramifications, whether the people rise up and overthrow them or they don't, the guys that stay in it for a longer period of time, they have to deal with their decisions and their things more. Like you get a different kind of ruler and a different kind of leader when they're in that position for life, or when they're in that sort of thing for a very long period of time. And so, like, I'm not saying it's the right thing or the wrong thing. I'm not trying to pass a moral judgment and say like we should switch to what England does or we should do differently over here. But understanding at least how the 4 year term like policy works here in America, and like what the president is capable of doing in 4 years, what they're not capable of doing in 4 years, like what are the pros, what are the cons, like weighing everything on the table. I think that's like an important thing to do. Sorry, I
It's
took us
true.
off on a little tangent.
No, you're good. I want to finish this tangent though, because you struck something that I also wanted to mention here, which is that this idea of like, I know it's kind of crazy in today's day and age to think about having a monarch or a king as like the preferred method of ruling, but there's actually this Greek guy named Polybius who invented what is called anacyclosis, or the social cycle theory. What he described is that different forms of government eventually give way to other forms of government, and then at the end of the day, it comes full circle.
Holy
So if you want to
shit.
if you want to start at the top, what ends up happening is that there's some kind of big, you could call it a catastrophe, some strife, or just like a group of people that are starting out in a new place. And then what happens is that there's usually one person, or maybe like one or two people, that are like very competent and widely recognized by the community. Therefore, they're elevated to some sort of status of power. And that's where you get your first monarch, whether you go to a full-blown king or something lesser than that. But what happens is that the people want this because this is a person who is competent and trusted and is actually like supported by all of the people. So at the start of the monarch cycle, they're very happy. Eventually, though, you have to pass the rule on to someone else. And at that point, you get less competent people because they didn't have the same trials and tribulations. And depending on how competent your line is, this phase can, again, be delayed for a certain amount of time. But eventually, you get to people that are only self-interested in maintaining the ruling line. And that's where you get the rise of oligarchs. Once you get the rise of oligarchs, it's a group of other competent people at the time who are leaders of business, industry, community, whatever. They eventually rise up, seize the power amongst themselves to try to help the community themselves. And then eventually it keeps going down the cycle. Eventually the oligarchs no longer are the oligarchs of old that were actually the titans of industry. And then you get the proletariat and the people rising up, say, these people are no longer serving our best interests. We should be in charge of serving our best interests. Thus you get the rise of democracy. Eventually, democracy falls when people realize that they can just rob the coffers of the government to enrich themselves. And at that point, you get full-on civil strife, deconstructionism, and then the cycle renews, which is eventually you have such sort of a catastrophe or a disrest. There's usually one or two people that stand out as the strong men or the good, confident people, and then the people, the former democracy, rallies around the individual, and the cycle restarts. By the way, shout out to Nick Freitas. He has the podcast over there with Christian Hines, and they cover this for one of their episodes. It's a very good one. They talk about it, but
hell yeah.
That's not the point here. What was that?
Plutaga. If the folks at home want to look this dude,
Polybius.
Polybius.
Polybius. Polybius. Some Greek guy. Long ago. Thought about this all ahead of the time.
It's the Greeks thought of a lot of things, and I don't know how long they were around before. Like if the Greeks did their great thing for like 1,000 years or 2,000, whatever the hell. But man, there was a lot of thinking done in Greece. Isn't that cool? Like we all stand on the shoulders of giants. Every time I have a great idea, I think to myself, I need to eat like a slice of humble pie, because there's probably at least 100 people who have thought of it before me. I just happen to have like a streaming platform in YouTube where I can discuss it, or I happen to have like a journal where I can write it down or something. So it's like, man, shout out to all those Greek dudes, all those Plato, Socrates, Cicero, all those fellers.
Fair enough. What we're talking about, we might as well cover governmental structures. So what the book talks about when it comes to the governmental structures or the control structures, which is if you have a single source of control at the top of the government, as opposed to a free market where individuals are the ones that are in control of individual transactions that eventually balance themselves out. This is actually very in line with the Austrian School of Economics. We covered this book previously, but do you remember which one this sounds very like?
Well, if it's Austrian economics, then I would. Fuck, I don't know what it is. What book
It
is
would
it
be
from?
The Road to Serfdom by Friedrich Hayek.
Okay.
What he talks about that book is that the markets are much more capable and competent at making decisions and balancing themselves, as opposed to a single person or a group of bureaucrats in trying to be in charge of managing an entire market structure. The idea is that you and I, like if you and I do business on a daily basis, you and I are the most versed in this because we deal with it. We deal with the consequences, more importantly, on a daily basis. So we're more in tune to it. As opposed to if someone came to you and I and said, hey, we need you to price out all of the precious metals and industrial metals in the country that we're going to be trading with everyone else. Got it? Okay, go. How good of a job do you think we're going to do at it, even if we spend 24/7 trying to figure it out?
That's fucking bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, there's trade-offs, which is when you have the centralized economy, which is more towards the side of communism. Well, theoretically, you can like mandate that everyone gets a certain amount of stuff. Whether or not the actual economy can fulfill those needs is a very different thing. On the
Well,
flip side, when
somebody's
you
got to
have
pay for that. It's got to. The ledger's
exactly
got to balance. What was the quote that you had that uh
the only
not
trade-offs,
mine. Oh, yeah, economics is all about trade-offs. When the government or whoever the person is who's carrying the big stick comes in and says, "Hey, I need you to do this because I have big stick." The cost of that has to be it has to come from somewhere, right? The person who is like out there providing the service, who's afraid of being hit by the big stick, that thing that he now has to do because Big Stick Man says like, "Hey, things got to happen." That cost either gets stomached by him or it gets stomached by the market. And if it gets stomached by him, then congratulations, the market pays anyways because now the market doesn't have problem solved. Whatever that dude was that was providing that product or service. So like at the end of the day, whenever Big Stick Man comes in and says, "Hey, this must happen," the market pays for it. Right. And who is the market? The market's the guy who voted Big Stick Man into place to begin with. So like it's all just a big game of like, hey, you're all responsible for everything that you do, you stupid motherfuckers. And
there,
so like it sorry, I'm
no, you're
going
good.
off into tangents here,
I
but
think
like
there's a beautiful irony to it, which is
yeah,
that the system you're talking about is centralized command economies, which is
yeah,
that when the big stick comes in, the big stick ultimately pays for it. But in the free market economies, it's the individuals on a day-to-day transactions, they're the ones that pay for it. But the beautiful irony here is that when you go full circle on the centralized economy, it's that, yeah, sure, the big stick man is paying for it with the taxes that he got from the people, but he got the taxes from the people. So each of
that's
the
the point.
individuals are still at the end of the day paying for it, just
Yeah,
at a much less efficient scale.
correct. And it's like in the free market, you get the best price for the best service. In the dictated market or the whatever you want to call it, where it's like the government sets the tax rates, the government determines the value, the government sets the prices, you know, the little guy still pays for it. The market still pays for it, but they pay for the incompetence of the guy that's setting the rules, right? They don't pay for the goods and services. They pay the full price. They pay the price of the goods and services plus whatever the violence value is of the thing that the person that's the fiat man who says like, "I say therefore it is." If they say, "Hey, congratulations guys, gas now costs, $1 and there is no variance of it. Gas must cost $1." What's going to happen is all these companies that are producing gas for $3 are going to be like, "Oh, we're operating. It costs us, $2.95 to produce a gallon of gas that we sell for $3. So we have a 5 cent profit on or like a not a five. It would be like a 2% profit on this whole fucking thing. And now we're being told that we have to sell it at a loss. Like, why the fuck am I going to do a thing for a loss? See ya. Now no gas is produced and now nobody gets gas because the gas is stuck at $1. So the only people you have producing gas are the people that are subsidized by the government. Who, again, it's because nobody's going to operate at 1/3 efficiency. It's like why would I spend $10 to make a sandwich that's worth $2? You know, it's like, this is fucking retarded. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go where I'm treated best. I'm going to go where I'm incentivized, not in the place where I'm disincentivized. So what happens when the government says, hey, gas is now $1 when it really costs $3, is everybody that could buy it, like when gas was $3, now nobody gets it and gas is $1 because there's no fucking gas being made, and nobody can go out and get the stuff because it's been
So
uh
what you're describing right there is what's called a price floor, which is
yeah,
that with the government sets an artificial floor for the prices, even though the market wants it to be theoretically higher. When
wherever.
you
Yeah.
get to this point where, or I guess this would actually be a price ceiling, excuse me.
Can
So
you
it's
describe
capping
what
it.
the market is before you go too far into this? Can you describe like what is the market before we go too far into the weeds? Because there might be some people who this is the first time they're hearing about economics.
Yeah, whenever we're talking about markets, all we're talking about is the individual people that comprise all of the different transactions, but you can just kind of group them all together as the market or an economy.
Yep.
So one of the famous
Wow.
quotes here is that, one of the famous quotes here is that nations don't trade with other nations, individuals trade with other individuals. So you can talk about a market at large. You're not talking about some like nebulous thing that operates on its own. What you're describing is just a bundle of a bunch of individuals or businesses, which are also comprised of individuals, that are making these transactions. And then you're trying to look at the overall effects. One of the big things that we do want to keep in mind when we're talking about economics is that you can talk about personal economics or you can talk about macroeconomics. We're talking about macroeconomics today. So we're not on the battlefield looking at what's around us. We are back at HQ with a map from a 10,000 foot view trying to encompass everything. So that's kind of the lens that we're looking through tonight. Additionally, Thomas Sowell talks about this in the book as well, which is that in certain occasions, if one person tries to find like some sort of way to do something unique in the system, they can benefit from it. But if everybody tried to do that, then the benefit would no longer exist and it wouldn't be worthwhile doing. That kind of stuff exists. So remember, macroeconomics, talking about markets, which is comprised of all the individual people making the transactions. In the gas example, we're talking about the people that are going drilling oil wells, looking for oil wells, refining oil, transporting oil, selling oil, running the gas station. And then also the people that are buying it at every step of the way, because it has to get from one step to another. All those people comprise the market. There you go. How's that?
Yeah. That's good, man. That's good.
All right, sweet.
So you were talking about like how the market responds to the
Yes, price ceiling. So
Yep.
the scenario that you gave was a price ceiling. That is basically saying the price can go no higher than this. Then you get what happens, which is that people, just the market, the people inside the market, don't find it worth their while to actually go about this activity. What is being conveyed to them through the price of that fuel is saying that we are, by law, requiring it to be here. Therefore, if you are unable to meet this price, then you are no longer profitable. Therefore, the companies and the people inside those companies doing these activities will have to find other work. Therefore, your supply is going to drop drastically. And instead of getting increased prices, because the government has mandated prices, you're either going to get a severe reduction in fuel, limitation, or none at all. That's what's going to happen in this scenario. The flip scenario here, though, is what's called a price floor. So ceiling is when they say there's a cap. You can't sell above it. Price floor says we will not allow the price to go below a certain point. At this point, what typically happens is that the government actually steps in and subsidizes the activity because they want to see it happen, because they've deemed for some reason that it is valuable, and that's what they said. So you got to do it. So what ends up happening is that the government pretty much just pays subsidies to the people to make up that difference. They're saying the market wants this price, but we're going to charge this price. And we're going to have to make up that difference. And ultimately, the taxpayer is responsible because that's where the money comes from.
Hell yeah, man. The money.
This is a good point
to spend the money.
This is a good point to transition to another one here. So, do you remember what Thomas Sowell says the point of prices are?
The point of prices is to like find the intermediary between like. Okay, so I don't remember the exact quote. I know that I heard it.
I have a quote here for you, though.
Okay,
how about I go for this first?
Yeah, give me the
Thomas
quote.
Sowell, on an individual basis, it's easy to look at prices as a roadblock to getting the thing that you want, but really, prices are signals to the economy, both for purchasers and suppliers.
Yeah,
signals.
One of the
prices are signals.
Talks about the prices are signals, and like I didn't really understand it, like, and I still don't understand it, but like he's repeating what Thomas Sowell says, and you know, it's like they really are signals because like. we only think of things from our own perspective most often. And so we have to detach ourselves from our own ego in order to look at what prices really mean. Because most of the time we only think like, oh, damn, price is too expensive. These greedy bastards must be out to fuck me. And like in reality, the guys that are selling the thing, they don't care about you. All that they're doing is they're saying like, hey, I made this for this, and so I need to get this in order to make more of it. It's like they don't care about you as the individual. They're not out to get you because the bicycle costs $200 instead of $100, right? They're not out to like try and ruin your day. They could give a shit. What they're trying to do is they're trying to make bicycles and sell them so that they can keep making bicycles and keep selling them and then grow their company and then maybe one day make tricycles, et cetera, et cetera. But like you have to be able to disconnect yourself from like what is the number as it relates to me versus what is the number as it relates to where does he get the metal from, where does he get the tires from, where does he get the labor to assemble the rubber and tires and metal and everything all together into a bicycle package. Then where does he get the money to ship it to your location? Then where does the store get the money to sit there and put the bicycle in the air conditioning so that way it doesn't rust and doesn't get all fucked up over time, it doesn't sit out in the sunlight and the paint fades and blah blah blah. Like there's a cost every single step of the way, and all of those things together equal that price. And every single person involved in that chain, in that process, has to get like a little cut off the top in order to keep doing it. If they're not getting that little cut off the top, then they're like, oh, why the hell am I doing this? Like you're not going to sit there and talk to a homeless guy if he just keeps like stabbing you in the chest every time that you say something. Like you have to be incentivized to continue the conversation. You have to want to keep doing the thing that you're doing in order to continue down the path. So as soon as the bicycle stops costing $200, it either costs more or it costs less. It costs less when the people that are able to get all the bicycle materials can assemble it for cheaper, or they don't need as many people, or it turns out they have some sort of like rust-proof thing, doesn't need to be stored in AC. They find some sort of cost-cutting measure in the whole process, and they pass that cost on to the customer, so that way the customer's incentivized to buy more of them, and they can then make more bicycles because now they're saving money on the production, so they can charge less for it. You know, the whole
Yeah.
idea of like greedy big corporation, man, charging as high a price as possible is just absolutely asinine when it comes to like the free market and competition. The only time you can do that is when you run like a monopolistic sort of thing, like I don't know, maybe insurance or something like that. But that's a whole other
That also
can of
typically
worms.
comes with government regulation to ensure that there are protections in order to have monopolies.
Yeah.
Back to what you actually covered. You touched on what was actually introduced in this section, which is the idea of raw materials, intermediate goods, and final goods, and how prices as signals for all these different things, not just for the people involved in the direct transactions, but all the people that are involved in all the possible transactions that each of those things could have gone into. So the example that he gives is that, let's say the price of cheese skyrockets because there's just more demand for cheese. Well, guess what? People are going to try to meet that demand, and the price of cheese is going to increase. So people in the cheese business are going to be like, cool, I can make a lot of money. Let's make more cheese. What do you need to make cheese? Milk. So now the cost of milk is going up because there's a higher demand for it. But let's say you're not in the cheese making business, but you're in the ice cream business. You also need milk for this. So that means that the cost of your milk, your intermediate good to get to your final good, has now increased, meaning that you're either going to have to increase your prices or the overall demand for ice cream is going to decrease as a result, because the people, the end consumer, are going to look at the overall market here and say, I like cheese. I also like ice cream. Which one do I want more? Well, cheese is in style right now. I'm gonna go get some cheese. Now you have the prices as signals. So because the price of ice cream went up, it probably discouraged people from buying some ice cream. Now that has also sent a signal back down the system as well, saying the market is unwilling to bear the higher price of ice cream. So we are now going to shift resources from making ice cream to making more cheese, because that is what the market is demanding at this time. So there you go. We integrated all of it. We got prices, we got intermediate and final goods, and we got signals, and we got the market overall. That's how all this works together. When you're looking at macroeconomics, it is a very wide interwoven web of all these different things that fit back into each other. Because you could be a milk supplier, but you talk to people that make yogurt, they make ice cream, they make heavy cream, they make whipped cream, they make cheese, they make all kinds of stuff. A lot of these things are very interconnected. So when you have prices that are able to be moved on their own, they act as signals that go both up and down the supply chain, saying where they want the different resources to be allocated.
Mm-hmm.
This goes into another one of his topics, which is that what really is defined as John Smith, who wrote The Wealth of Nations. The question that he poses in the book, The Wealth of Nations, is what is the wealth of a nation? And he says it's not money. It's not even gold. It's the amount of stuff in the economy. And the classic example for this one is that if you have a government that has a fiat currency and they just double the money supply overnight, have you actually increased the amount of goods in your country, or have you just increased the amount of dollars to buy goods for that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
That's where you go. The way that Thomas Sowell argues that you measure an economy is not based on the amount of dollars it produces, but the overall amount of goods and services it produces, because that is the descriptor for what is actually going on, what the average person can consume, and what the average person has for their life, not expectancy, the quality of life. There we go.
And oh man, I had a thought. Fuck, what was it? I need to drink more coffee. I need to regain my composure. What were you were just talking about before the government printing money and doubling the money overnight. Man,
What is
there's
an
something.
economy made of? It is the goods.
Yeah,
The goods being
it is.
produced.
It is the goods. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Is that the market's a fickle bitch, and so like sometimes she decides that she wants one thing, and then she decides she wants another. You know, sometimes the market wants like this is probably back with your. I guess I could go back to the cheese and the yogurt or the cheese and the milk example you were talking about, where it's like, does the market want cheese or does the market want yogurt, right? And then like most of the market says they want cheese because all the cheese is gone, and so the price of the cheese has to rise because now like the supply is not meeting the demand. So that sends a signal to the suppliers. The suppliers make more cheese because they're like, oh, people are buying cheese. We want to make what they're buying because if we make what they're not buying, then we're sitting on inventory and we're losing money. So we make more of what they're buying, and then there's more cheese, and then the price goes back down, and it normalizes and it finds an equal balance in between the supply and demand. And then all of a sudden, the market decides like, oh, we actually hate cheese now. We're going for baguettes, and then we're just buying a whole bunch of baguettes and wine and horrible stinky French things that they keep wanting. The market's a fickle bitch, and she'll change her mind, and you won't know why until too late. But the market, like the price, is how you measure all that stuff. And so, um, man,
Price,
he had a
supply, all
really
of that.
great way.
Yep.
Absolutely. Those are my thoughts on this thing.
To take this one step further, though, another idea that Thomas Sowell posits in the book is that it's not just goods that are subject to prices as signals, but it's also labor.
Yes.
Labor is subject to signals as well, which is that labor is similar to goods, not that it is consumed, but it is used to generate income. And if you have the proper allocation of human capital, of aka your labor, to the correct places, that's where you're going to achieve the best results. So when you also have prices, or in this case, wages, as a signal for this can also tell the labor force where to go, what to specialize in, and what is needed the most at any given time. It's one of those ideas where people, I think even today, someone mentioned to me, you're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize, but like garbage men make like $100,000 in this certain area. And I'm like, well, it's probably because the area has decided that they really need this service done. So they're willing to pay these people this certain amount, as opposed to other jobs that pay less, but might be like more fun or frilly. They get paid less because the market is saying, yeah, it's cool, but I really need my garbage taken out. Like that is going to become an issue.
Yep. I think in the book he was describing that people don't understand the value of electricity until there's a blackout. People don't understand the value of garbage disposal until there is none, and the bins are stacking up outside your house, and they're like, I keep generating trash, but the trash doesn't go away. Like nobody knows the value. Nobody really appreciates the value of a plumbing service until your toilet's backed up and your sink doesn't work, and like all these other things, and people are willing to pay more or less based on the severity, like the proximity of the problem, and the severity. So like proximity and severity, those things are heavily correlated to price. So like when the proximity of starvation is far away from you and you're not worried about dying of starvation, you're paying normal prices for food, you're buying shit for cheap, no sweat, no problem. But when like you haven't had food for 7 days and your kids are like they don't have tears to cry because they're out of water and dehydrated or whatever, like you'll do whatever it takes to get that bottle of water. You'll do whatever it takes to snag that cheeseburger, whether you have to like commit some atrocious things or do whatever. Like the value of these individual things change based on where you're at in your position of like abundance versus scarcity. And that's another thing he talks about in the book is like not that and Moondog corrected me on this in the DGen Roundtable chat, so thank you, Moondog. But he was Sowell was talking about how like um the quick quote, which isn't like literally correct, is that scarcity begets value, but like really what it is scarcity has a high correlation to value. So like with things that are very important, um people, and there aren't a lot of them, people will pay top dollar for it. And when things are abundant, then it's like, hey, things are super cheap and things are nice and things are awesome and crazy. I'm going on tangents here, Zenith. Draw us back into the draw us back into the subject.
All good. No, the labor idea is a very important one because I think as an individual or a consumer, it's very easy to think about just the economy is the stuff that you pay for. But the other component is all the stuff that goes into it being made, and labor cost is usually, if not always, one of the biggest expenditures of companies that are trying to do anything. That human capital cost is a big requirement for it. So I do have a quote here, and you even liked it in the Telegram here. Here we have from Thomas Sowell, quote, "The issue with misconceptions about labor is that people have emotional investment in their titles as a sense of their identity." So this came from one of the sections where he talks about why human capital is one of the issues where it's harder to deal with from the sense of trying to make the most rational choices at a time. And he highlights here, it's a slightly irrational thing because it's not just you are an interchangeable person to go to a certain place and do a certain thing. There's a degree of investment that you have in the skills that you manufactured and your experiences, but also there's a bit of identity that's with it that injects that emotion into the market in this sense. And that's where you can kind of see some of these quagmires start up.
And somebody has to pay for that emotion, right? It's either the person who has the emotion, or it's the employer, or it's the customer. Most often it's the customer, right? Like when you have like emotional employees that work at Starbucks and Starbucks won't fire them, then the customers get pissed off, and then the customers don't buy the coffee, causes the coffee price to rise or fall or do whatever the hell, and then like the Starbucks maybe goes out of business because they got one or two irrational or emotional employees or something like that. That's kind of a bad example.
I would argue it's a little bit more than that. So what this specific section was highlighting was the ability to move human labor between different areas, which is that trying to convince someone to leave a profession and go take up another profession. I think we saw this back, it was like 2015, 2016 on Twitter. People were talking about coal mine workers are losing their jobs, and people were telling them to learn to code. And then people in response were telling the journalists to learn to code when they were getting replaced by AI. And everyone just has like a stubbornness about doing it. Because in some cases it's going to be very difficult, near impossible to retool or re-educate certain people to go from one profession to an entirely different one. But also because you sometimes get that concept of like, well, my grandfather was a cobbler, my father was a cobbler, and I'm a cobbler, and damn it, my son and grandson are going to be cobblers too. And it's like, well, is that the most economical choice for you, or are you just saying this out of pride?
Yeah.
Could your labor be spent elsewhere better?
That's a great way to put it. And the real thing that people need to, so there's two things, right? One is focusing on what's the problem. Two is focusing on what's the solution. So what is the problem? The problem is getting, emotionally attached, like what you were saying, is getting the ego investment in the title, in the thing, in the whatever it is, right? At the end of the day, what is a job? A job is you solving someone else's problem because they have money and you have skill, right? So if you have a skill, but it turns out nobody needs the skill, then congratulations, you're obsolete. You're like a fucking pencil sharpener, bro. Who the hell uses pencil sharpeners? They don't exist. They're gone. They're out of here. Maybe like kindergarten places or something like that. I don't know if they're even using pencils anymore. Maybe they are. But the point is like the world used to be pencils. Before there was pens, the world was all pencils. Then before that, it was all ink quills. And then before that, it was like, carving shit into stone with a chisel, right? So like where's all the chisel sharpeners? Where's all the guys that like their job was to like maintain horse-drawn plows? Those guys are probably out of job, not because they're bad people, but because the problem that they solved became irrelevant. It's similar to a lot of the things that AI is doing today with like basic coding, with generation of artwork, with the creation of content, with all sorts of stuff. There's all sorts of stuff that AI is taking over, and it doesn't mean that the person that's doing the work is invaluable, it means that the problem that they solve is no longer worth the same amount of money that it used to be. And so, like, what you have to do, if you're a reasonable human being, you have to detach yourself from the fact that, like, oh, I am a valuable person, and the work I do is no longer worth the same amount of dollar values because the world has changed, you know. And so, like, people have to
Yep.
detach themselves from that ego investment, and then they have to find what is the next problem that I can solve. It's very I would highly recommend that people become adaptable more so than they just become like super good at one particular thing. Be good at being good at stuff, you know. Learn how to learn how to get shit figured out quickly, and to overcome problems and adapt to new things, because like if you just hyper focus on one thing, like what are the odds that that's going to be around forever? It could be 100%, it could be 15%. You never know. It's a
I feel
gamble you
like
have to take.
history shows it's actually always going to die out at some point.
It's always going to die out at some point. I will say that,
The
like,
question is just, is it in your lifetime or the next?
bingo, there you go. There's
There you
there's three realms of like human endeavor, human problem solving that are pretty consistent. One is dealing with people, the other is dealing with money, and then the last one is dealing with yourself. Like, so if you get into like relationships, health, or finances, if you're in one of those three categories, you're gonna be solving problems that people always have. People always have people problems, so they need therapists, they need priests, they need counselors, they need marriage clerks, they need lawyers, all of these stuff. People that help you deal with other people, you know, police, security, whatever the hell, right? Salesmen. If you're a person that helps other people deal with people, then you'll always be needed. But I say that like kind of, you know, whatever, bell curve statement, right? If you're a person that deals with health, congratulations. People are always dying and people are always getting born. People's beards are always growing. Their fingernails are always needing to be trimmed. If they're ladies, they need the hair, they need the makeup, they need the, you know, deodorant producers, whatever the hell. People that deal with health, people that deal with the corporeal form, open heart surgery, all that crap, they're always going to be necessary. So you're always going to need people, you're always going to need health, and you're always going to need finances, because finances is the measurement of how you trade your value for other people's value. So if you want to take that term and turn it into cryptocurrency, turn it into gold, turn it into bartering chickens, turn it into doing favors for other people. If you're a guy that helps other people transact, then that's important, you know. So whether you're a banker, whether you're a loan shark, whether you're a crypto bro, whether you're like a financial educator or a tax guy or something along those lines, like you're always going to need those three things. You're always going to need people, you're always going to need finances, you're always going to need health. So like if you can get into one of those categories, then the odds of you keeping your job for a very long time, pretty good. But I
Right
don't know
off.
if the world
Sir,
needs grilled cheese salesmen.
go ahead and grab your go ahead and grab your sheet of paper there. I will say
Oh,
my
is it?
final note here though is you mentioned AI and pencils, and I was gonna say, you know, I think the future of pens and pencils is actually looking pretty good now that they're trying to get AI out of the schools. So
Holy
them
smokes.
children gonna learn about writing cursive again. Yeah.
We got a lot of motherfucking chats right now going on. So let's go
Yeah, we
ahead
do.
and hop into the chat shoutouts, ladies and germs. All right. I'm going to star these as, oh, shoot. I should just bring them up. Here we go.
There you go.
Bring them up.
Hex Glenn coming in with a good evening, guys. Good evening to you, sir. That's right. We got some people trickling in here. We may have dragged out the preamble ramble for a little bit there because we got the StreamYard link up a little bit late. But regardless, we're happy that all of you guys are here with us on a beautiful Friday night. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Hex Glenn. Speaking of good people, we got Funkmaster Hex. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening to you, sir. Actually, I'll give you this one. There you go. Salute. Salute.
He's getting the Swiss Alps cheers. Good to see you, Hex Glenn.
There you go. There you go. Up next, who I think it is. It is Tam Tam coming in. I believe her first one said, "Hello, my lovelies." Hello to you too, Tam. So excited to have you here. She's been, I've been seeing a lot of your stuff on Twitter, being very active, keeping the positivity going, spreading all the good messages out there. Love to see it. She says, "Excellent conversation, gentlemen. Loving it. Much appreciated." We have plenty more to get to. And we are going to start taking our turn towards what Thomas Sowell says about the crypto bros, potentially. I got some notes on that one. Up next, we got Moondog coming in here. He says, "The economy is more than just goods, i.e. is also labor. You could literally have tons of oil under your dirt, but without the U.S. government manpower to help you free it, more of a liability than an asset." Yes, sir. Thomas will even talk about that in the book. He said Canada had these giant fields of oil sands, and then for a long time, they just weren't counted in the total oil supply of the world because we didn't have the technology to extract the oil. But now we do, so they are. There you go. Up next, Mr. Paul Sachs said, "Red Solo Cup. I fill you up. Let's have a party."
I don't know if I'm synced with you as far as time goes, but it sounded good to me.
Sounded pretty good to me
Have a
too.
motherfucking
He
party,
says
baby.
Thomas Sowell YouTube videos and channels are timeless, brothers. I would agree. This is some timeless wisdom here, and I think that this is going to stay true for a long, long time. You can try to get away from it, but economics, incentives, incentive structures, those are timeless for sure. All right, what's next? Moondog coming in again. Says, one of my early real estate mentors, real estate is easy. People are difficult. The ideas and logistics behind real estate aren't nearly as complex as dealing with the humans involved. Well said, sir. I think many people that tried to be a landlord at some point realize that, wow, tenants can be terrible. They're like, yep, they even ultimately cost you more money than they're worth. You got to vet your tenants, folks. Just saying. And also be a good tenant. That's how you get your security deposit back, which is a nice thing, I will say.
There's the security deposit. Man, that's hitting on the speed of trust right there. The speed of trust.
Speed of trust was mentioned in this one.
Oh,
yeah,
he mentioned the book.
No, he didn't mention speed of trust, but he talked about the
Okay.
ideas, which is that he was talking about certain societies that if you can live in a very high trust society or a small high trust community, you can actually eliminate a lot of costs that are associated with a lot of other stuff, such as not having to go get lawyers involved, not having to go get a bunch of paperwork involved, all that kind of stuff. Because if you can just like trust the people you work with, you don't need all that extra garbage because you got good trust, and your reputation is the thing that you're risking there.
And also, when you live in like a high trust community, then the prices reflect that. So like when you're in like a poor, it's expensive to live in a poor neighborhood because things get broken into, places get robbed, all sorts of like all sorts of the violence, the cost of the violence is passed down onto the community, onto the local little market there, and whoever supplies that market. Like think about the example that he gave in the book is in like a poor community, you might have like $5,000 needs to be loaned out, so 10 people go and get $500 loans, right? Like what are the odds that all 10 of them pay that $500 loan back? They have to charge that 20% APR because they know that there's going to be 3 or 4 motherfuckers that aren't going to pay that $500 back, and so they're going to lose money on those dudes unless the other guys pay for it. So when you have a whole bunch of people that don't pay for stuff and that like snake other people out of it, they're really robbing everyone else that's around them that partakes in that same community effect, versus like in a middle class or a high class environment where there's like, banks and securities and suburbs and all that. You can go and you can borrow money for super cheap because people pay it back because it's a wealthier place, so people can afford to do that sort of thing. And so like going and borrowing $5,000 when you're in like a ritzy neighborhood is a lot cheaper than going and borrowing $5,000 when you're in a poor neighborhood. Same thing with groceries, like that rule in San Francisco where like you can rob something and not be a felon as long as it's under
it's only a misdemeanor.
$951.
Yeah, it's only a misdemeanor if you steal less than $1,000 worth of stuff.
And you know what that does? That incentivizes people to steal $999 worth of shit because now they're not getting like they're not getting the same type of like negative reinforcement that you would get for normal stealing. And so you see like all the Walgreens, all the CVS's, all the places in the poorer communities over there in San Francisco have all closed down, or they've got like crazy security guards, or you see all this like hubbub and craziness on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter about all this crazy stuff going on in these communities because the poor people are making it more expensive for their own community by extracting wealth and doing things that like have lasting impressions. Like when one person steals in a community, it doesn't just affect the store, it affects everyone in that community because now the store has to cover that cost basis. The store can't continue operating with an expectation of things getting stolen all the time. Now they have to factor that into the price of everything else, and so the price of everything else goes up, right? And then that causes more poor people to not be able to afford the same sort of things. And so like basically the moral of the story is like, don't be poor. Find your way to solve as many problems as possible to get like compensated well for your services and get out of those neighborhoods, get out of those places, like escape the shitty end of the rat race. It's super sad, but it is what it is. We've also got one other chat shout out here for you, Mr. Z. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it up for you to
Moonpill the Rational Optics coming in here saying Thomas Sowell is the GOAT. Yes, sir. Read at least 3 of his books. I think you're beating me. I think I'm at 2. I read this one, and then I read Black Rednecks and White Liberals. I think that's what it was. It was either that or Cosmic Justice. It was one of those two. They're very similarly related. Less economics on those ones, more of dealing with the social justice and the racial tension arguments and being like, these are all kind of crap. And by kind of crap, he means entirely made of crap.
Yeah.
By the way, we do have one more from Paul Sachs there.
Oh, we do? Oh, yeah, too much. Oh,
nope, the one above that. They're together. He says, the Second Amendment is for security deposit insurance. Too much liberty? Well, I think Will's I don't know if he's a resident of Texas anymore, but you were there. And I think they say that Texas is everybody's carrying, and an armed populace is a polite populace.
I try not to be a resident of anywhere because there's no way that I want to tie myself down to a state that could, become super terrible. Now, I say that being a resident of Washington, which is like, for some reason, man, being a Washington state resident that does not live in the state is like one of the best things you can do. The only thing that I don't like about being a Washington state resident that doesn't live in Washington is that there's an 8% capital gains tax from the state. So I don't like that a whole lot. But everything else is great. Like, I don't have to, like, getting my car re-registered. I don't have to go get an inspection. I don't have to ask the government, like, hey, is my car good enough for your roads? Like, do I have to worry about the smog? And is my check engine light on? It's like, go fuck yourself. Washington state, you don't have to get an inspection. You don't pay income tax. Like, they fuck you on property tax and sales tax, but I don't live there. So it's like, hey, it's great. I'm doing fantastic. Yeah,
I regret to inform you, my friend, that you unfortunately are in the top 10% of states that charge capital gains tax.
I know. But like, I don't have capital gains. Like, I've not made any investments.
Yet.
Bro, I don't own my crypto. I just know a
Allegedly.
secret. I just know a super secret password that can move some things around on a spreadsheet somewhere. So it's like, I don't own any money. It's all good. That's the way that it works.
This feels like the time of the show where we remind people at home where this is not financial advice or legal
Correct.
advice.
It's not financial or legal advice. If you guys do the things that I do, but you don't move around all the time, then you might get arrested. So probably don't listen to anything that I say. It's nothing but bad ideas out of me. So, literally please don't do anything that I say. I can get away with it because I'm mobile for now until I get, until I get hemmed up in some sort of checkpoint somewhere. But we'll see. Ooh, we got one from Moondog here. This is a pretty good one. Living in CL, militarized police force has made politeness of Second Amendment obsolete. People don't even think about other people being armed when armed people are scared to defend themselves. That's interesting. I would not want to be where that's happening. And then Paul Sachs will partakes in annual boating accidents. Yes, nothing but boating accidents happen where I'm at. My whole life is just a series of boating accidents. Fucking freedom, baby. Yeah. I very much appreciate sovereignty and freedom, so that's why I do the things that I do. And I don't know if it's working. I'm pretty happy as of now, but we'll see if I get hemmed up later. Maybe streaming is not a very good idea. Announcing my location for the feds to come and raid me. Who knows?
Might not be. But
not be. Oh well. I guess I better get in my truck and start driving while I'm streaming then. I won't be able to do producing stuff, Mrs. Producer. If I start streaming from the truck again, we'll need you to hop back in the producer street. I am slowly becoming the producer for the DGen Roundtable against my will, but it's fun and it's great.
Hey,
So,
I can do it. I don't mind it.
yeah,
It's not that bad.
True, you could do it. Yeah, there you go. But anyways, let's get back to it. We got 70 people watching us here. We have things to talk about and people to see.
Fair enough. I imagine that a large majority of the 70 people watching, shout out to all you guys, by the way, they might identify as people that have some sort of interest in cryptocurrency or investment at the very least. So I want to talk about speculation, investment, and gambling. I do have a little quote here from the book. Quote, gambling involves creating a risk that would otherwise not exist in order to take profit or exhibit a skill or lack of fear. Economic speculation is coping with an inherent risk in such a way as to minimize it and leave it to be bared by whoever is best equipped to bear it. What do you think?
That's a good one. I like that. I'm going to pin that. That's been pinned.
This comes from a section where Thomas Sowell talks about the idea of what is the role of speculators in the markets. the role of speculators are people that are willing to take on risk in areas where other people are unwilling to take on risk. So in this case, what he's talking about is that he says economic speculation is coping with the inherent risk in a way to minimize it or leave it bared by whoever is best equipped to bear it. So if you are a guy that's out there growing wheat, are you someone that really wants to be very risk heavy, or are you just more interested in growing your wheat and making sure you get a good return for your efforts, as opposed to dealing with whatever the wheat market might do at the end of the year? If you're one of those people that would like to offload some of that risk potentially, then you probably look at something we've talked about on maybe some previous episodes, which is the idea of options contracts, which is that you exchange the uncertainty of the future by locking in a price with someone now that they are going to pay at a later date. And that person has chosen to take that risk. They're willing to front you the money for the thing in anticipation or some sort of expectation of profits later on. So, classic example of this is like you are a producer of something, and like, let's say you make pickles. You need cucumbers to make pickles. You don't know what the cucumber market's going to look like in the future, but you know that people want pickles all the time. So you got to keep that steady flow going. So what you could do is enter into an options contract with somebody to say, I will purchase this amount of pickles from you at this price at this point in the future. The person's like, okay, sounds good. I'm willing to do that, because they might have a little more knowledge of the markets or something that you don't, or some sort of connection to make that risk less for them to the point that they're willing to take it on. So This is where Thomas Sowell really, really breaks down that speculation and investment is very different from gambling. Gambling is something you take on your own to just go roll the dice or flip the coin for the expectation of, if I bet $1, I can make $2 if I guess the coin right. In this case, it's someone who is using their skills, their labor, their specialty to do something that someone else is unable to. So in this case, what he's really articulating is another one of the key points we talked about previously, which is that it's the proper allocation of resources. In this case, it's labor, specialty, and knowledge. So the person that knows how to grow wheat, they know how to grow wheat. They might not be super in tune with the rest of the market. Granted, they probably are a good bit because they are invested in the whole thing because that's their end product. But overall, if they can reduce their risk to ensure that they're not going to go broke any given season, it kind of makes sense for some people. The other half of that is this other quote here, which is, quote, the economic speculator uses their knowledge of the market plus economic and statistical analysis to arrive at a better guess than the farmer, and is able to offer a price that the farmer will consider an attractive alternative to waiting to sell at whatever the possible future prices may be. There you go. Speculators may be better equipped to handle being wrong, both economically and psychology, in ways that the farmer is not.
Mm-hmm. It's like the farmer's business is farming. The speculator's business is speculating. So it's like, it's a nice, clean, simple way to just look at it. It's like, this guy takes on risk and he offloads it somewhere else. The farmer might not be able to take on the risk. The speculator could have, like, he could have other things that are going on. But like, the farmer is all in on farming. The speculator he's doing whatever he's doing, and he's making his system work some way, somehow. The farmer just needs the money to do the farming effectively, and then, everything's hunky-dory from there. So it's like, people should definitely calculate the risks and definitely take this all into account. I really like. I think
one of the famous examples that he gave from the book was he was talking to a guy who was a soybean speculator on the markets, traded soybean futures, and the guy was like, "I don't even know what soybeans look like. I couldn't tell you what they are if I saw one, but I know the markets, and they do pretty good for me."
That was amusing. I quite like that.
It's pretty wild to think about, which is like, the person that can make the thing is not as good as trading the thing as the person who full-time trades the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you, I guess the other half that we want to talk about here is investment, though. So Thomas Sowell talks about investment in certain ways, which is that investment, there's two ways to look at it. You can either look at it from your trading time and money as your relationship for investing, or you are effectively investing in certain things that will return a future profit based on business incentives. So the examples he gives for these are stock certificates versus bonds. Bonds are that time-based guarantee of future money based on current money, which is often governments will use this, especially young governments, when they need to raise capital. What they'll do is they'll sell bonds to people so that they can raise money now to get their government going in order to anticipate that it's going to go well, so it'll grow so that they'll be able to make the return on those bonds. So bonds are a guaranteed return on investment, or guaranteed to a certain degree, because the other all famous quote here from Thomas Sowell is, quote, risk is inherent in all aspects of human life, not just investment. There you go.
Yep.
Anyways, back to bonds. Bonds are the way that you trade time for money. Granted, there is risk with it, but the downside risk for bonds, especially depending on which one you go with, that is going to definitely make your investment options better or worse. We do we got a quote here from Moondog. It says risk, like value, is relative, i.e., someone who already has clients or even better confirmed future orders has less risk than someone buying or before finding an end buyer. Well said, sir. I think it's exactly what we're talking about here.
Real estate world, man. Moondog's an expert in real estate. I love picking his brain. Shout out to Moondog.
All right, let's flip this on its head, though. So we talked about bonds. Let's talk about stocks, aka investment in ownership of a company. This is what Thomas Sowell talks about as a more risky, but if it works out well, it's much more worthwhile. So what you're doing is you're actually investing in the upfront of a business, whether you are the business owner, you're putting your own capital in, or you're purchasing stock of another company that wants to raise more capital in order to grow more. The upside with this kind of investment is that you actually get more proportional gains instead of just a locked in guarantee of what your money was. This is where you can get outsized gains. Or if we give a call back to who wrote $100 million offers?
Hormozy.
Alex Hormozy saying it's the home run that you can hit and it's worth 1,000 points. So there you go. So This is where he talks about venture capital. Venture capital is the idea that you're going to help a lot of businesses try to get growing because the outsized returns make up for it, even though about half of them fail. So a lot of downside, but the upside is so massive it can make up for it. So there you go. He talks about how investment in these areas actually are good indicators for the market as well, because again, similar to prices, if you invest in certain things and the investments pay off, it's a signal that these things are actually needed and these things are worthwhile investing in, as opposed to the ones that don't work out. That is a signal that the market has rejected this offer and this particular business or the way that they're operating it isn't quite working out. There you go. FYIZ, Thomas Sowell, Knowledge and Decisions. Ooh, I have to put that on the list of books for the future.
Bro, we have so many suggestions in that list. Oh my god,
the backlog is building up.
The backlog is faster than we can read them, but it's good.
In a little bit,
it's good. We have a plethora of. You know what's crazy, dude? I love seeing that backlog because it's like, man, there's so many things that I could learn, and they're all valuable. And we got fucking Centurion. I am a farmer and a speculator. There you go,
double
bro.
dipping. Let's go.
Fucking getting them soybeans, and oh man, he could be buying options against his own farm and doing some sort of money laundering circuit over there. I bet that's. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Not financial or legal advice.
Yep. Don't do it. Don't do it, Centurion. I'm a terrible idea person. But there's so many books on that list, man. It's phenomenal. I love to see it. What was the thing that you were talking about right before we got the book suggestion, though?
Talking about businesses succeeding and failing as indicators to the market. I actually have another quote here, which is talking about the lessons from this. So Thomas Sowell is saying that risks are invisible and easily overlooked or forgotten when the observer is only looking at successful businesses instead of the ones that failed. AKA, this is where we get survivorship bias.
So I've got something on this, and I was talking to my boss Mike about this earlier. We were painting gin pools because they had some rust on them. Doesn't matter what we were doing. I was talking to my boss, and I was like, as I was listening to this section of the book, and I was thinking, like, like we think about all of the businesses that still exist, and we don't think about any of the ones that went under, like Godfather's Pizza, right? That stuff that went bankrupt. That's all gone. You can think of all these products that don't exist anymore from when we were, like kids of the 90s, and there were all these like advertisements for like all these different like Boppets, man. Nobody cares about Boppets anymore. That's irrelevant. It failed. It went under. It was not relevant for a long time. It was not evergreen. Think about going to McDonald's or it's like Z, you and I are both like pretty close to our 30s, going to McDonald's as a kid. My boss was describing in McDonald's, there used to be like an actual hamburglar guy who would like walk around in a costume and hang out and like, and it was like a mascot of the fast food place. And now it's just like this gray corporate depressing place to go where it's like, I need food now. I guess I'm going to McDonald's. Whereas like back when we were kids, it was like, oh, this is like a fun excursion. This is like a fun family outing, and it's not expensive. It's cost effective, yada yada. and now it's like turning into this gray mess. Same thing with Walmart. Walmart used to be like the fun place where you go and you get your family photos, and there was like the little arcade and the coin machine things, and they still kind of have that stuff, but the market decided it didn't want those things anymore. And so now Walmart no longer does those family photo stuff. Now we all have phones, we all have cameras. So like that problem, all those guys that used to work at the Walmart photo stand, like they're all unemployed, or they went and found better jobs or something like that, because the market no longer had a need for that thing, a need for that niche, and we've moved on into other things. But we look at all these big companies and we only see the ones that still exist. We forget all about the ones that are gone, like Sears. Adios, amigo. What was he talking about with Sears? How Sears was originally like a mail order system. That was their whole thing. They took advantage of cheap postage so that people could get the catalog, and they order the stuff and it arrived. And now, like, what do we have instead of Sears? We have Amazon. Way easier, way faster, way higher selection, way cooler stuff. You can't buy a submachine gun from Amazon like you could buy a submachine gun from Sears back in the day. But like we all have like the world is constantly changing, and we only remember the things that survive because that's the only things that we're reminded out day after day. And as we die and we pass on, all our memories of all the old stuff's all going to go away, like all of those little days in the arcades and at Godfather's Pizza and chilling at Walmart and all that stuff. Oh wait, we got we got Mr. Moondog in here talking about Bop It. Bop It failed. I don't know if Bop It failed. As much as it was a flower relative to a more evergreen models, a flower doesn't fail in the joy it brings during its time, even if its time is more scarce. Yeah, you're right. When I say failed, it's just kind of like the filler word that's easy for me to think of because I have to do this while I'm live, and just like I can't process all these. But you bring up a great point. It didn't fail. It was great while it lasted, and then it moved to the next new shiny thing. This was before like memes and smartphones, and we could just look at cat videos to get all of our dopamine hits and everything.
Yeah.
But
Will, you actually brought up a really good point there where you were talking about how McDonald's and Walmart and all that stuff used to have like cool, like fun ideas, and then everything kind of went all very bland and corporate. So I guess one of the Thomas Sowell explanations for this is that with anything in economics, it's very multifaceted and there's a lot of different inputs and explanations for stuff.
Yep.
This is similar to a question I fielded recently. Someone asked me, I mentioned I went to Italy and saw the Ferrari museum. They're like, oh yeah, it's super cool. It's kind of weird though. Like all the different like Ferraris and supercars, they all just like look the same and don't feel special. And then yes, me, I feel this question as I wear my $25 Rolex knockoff here. I was like, well, there's two possible explanations for this. One, to give the Thomas Sowell explanation, is that the market could be sending signals that there's a specific kind of thing that the consumers actually want. Or B, it could be a signal to the people that run the corporations, which is that this is something that consistently makes money and there's less risk to it. So you can look at it from those two perspectives. The other side of this coin is that if you look at some of the, like people harken back to the 90s, the early 2000s when like car design was going real wild and you saw some really cool and crazy things coming out there.
Lotus lights. Yeah.
They either were smash successes or they kind of just failed and died out and no one talked about them. Well, what you get there is you get kind of it's the scale of risk, which is that you can risk it and try to go for new, bold designs that may or may not pay off. And if they pay off, hopefully they pay off massively and overcome all the different losses you have. But from the more like streamlined perspective, what you could try to approach is that there's a most efficient, most market approved idea of a thing that it is. So therefore, everybody in the market kind of conglomerates on that idea. Ultimately, though, you could get the market self-correcting, which Thomas Sowell's talked about here, which is that it can only bear so much. And if we could only get so many Ferraris and McLarens and Lamborghinis that all look exactly the same, eventually someone's going to make the standout thing and they're going to be rewarded for it. So whether it's all the Ferraris look the same now, unfortunately, or even people have noticed that the crossover midsize SUV is the most dominant and popular vehicle in the US now. It's that idea that you could be approaching that similar to how back when the iPhone was invented, people were like, I like buttons on my phones. And then Apple released the iPhone that had like 4 buttons on it. And then that ultimately became the standard because people realized that realistically, that is what they wanted. Not because they knew they wanted it, because it was provided for them. We could theoretically get back to a point where the market no longer decides that that is what they want. But you have these two options, which is one, it is either the most efficient design, aka the best allocation of your resources for design and production, all that stuff, or it could be this is the most economical way to run a business because it minimizes risk. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different ways to consider it. So.
It's the whole conservative ideology versus liberal ideology. Like, are you going to go with the old thing that works, that's proven time after time, or are you going to try new stuff? And every business has a different level of like appropriate conservative mindset versus liberal mindset that it has to maintain. Like Coca-Cola, they're not out there innovating new bottle designs, right? They're doing some stuff, they're doing whatever, but most of Coca-Cola is like they're pretty sorted in what they do. They've niched down, they've got their system, right? So they're not going to like create a circle Coke bottle, a sphere. They're not going to do that. They've got their thing that works. There's no point going and being crazy liberal, trying new ideas, trying new stuff. Um, but there's some companies that it pays really well to take risks. It pays really well to do the new thing, and somebody's going to hit the gold. Somebody's going to strike. Somebody's going to strike that vein and just get all the goodies and all the gumdrops and all the stuff. And companies have to determine like how much of their resources do they want to put into the conservative model, that it's like it's the proven, it's the Toyota RAV4, it's like this is what people want, it's the midsize SUV, you know, this is the thing that can do everything. It's just like the generic blase hamburger and hot dog, whatever the hell. And then some people, they go all out and they make the fantastic 7-course meal, but they make it out of things that everyone's allergic to, and it sucks. Or the next guy makes it out of the stuff that's the most delicious meal that anyone's ever tried in their entire life, and they make a bazillion trillion dollars, and they hit that Alex Hormozy $100 million offer thing. So I think of Jordan Peterson has a really good talk on this about like the level of like conservative ideology and values that businesses have to have, and people too, to a certain degree, that businesses and individuals and countries and all this stuff, you have to have a mix and match of conservative to liberal ideology of like stay the same, do what works, and also try a new thing. You have to have this nice um uh uh what do you call it, ratio that matches your environment or that matches your goal set, whatever you're trying to do. Like old people, they're probably pretty safe doing a 95-5 of conservative to liberal ideology. Young people, you can get away with taking a whole lot more risk because you're young. You still have a whole lot of life left to you. You still like you're mobile. You can heal fast. You can make more money. You can adapt and you can do new things. So you can adopt a much more liberal ideology. You can adopt way more, like I can adapt to new things, I can try, I can risk, I can do all sorts of stuff that old people towards the end of their lifespan probably shouldn't be doing. Probably shouldn't be trying skydiving for the first time when you're 95. you know I mean, go for it if you want to, but like you guys kind of understand what I'm saying, speaking in bell curve terms here. So that's end of my rant there.
Fair enough. Alrighty, I got two more topics I definitely want to hit, and we hopefully will have more time for it. Yes, Hex Glenn, New Coke was not a hit, but I'm just saying there's a reason that the Mexican Coke is popular. It's special. It's got that zing to it.
It's sugar,
Anyways.
man. It's not corn syrup. And
There you
also
go.
like
That cane sugar, baby.
delicious.
By the way, if you're ever in Key West, go get a mojito where they hopefully stick the entire stick of cane sugar in there. You can kind of chew on it while you sip. It is fantastic. But that's neither here nor there. All right. Final point from Thomas Sowell talking about the crypto bros. We don't talk about crypto specifically. I believe the book was released in 2010 versus the 5th edition is 2013, by the way. But he does talk about trading currencies or the different values of currency. This is in the section talking about the cost of money. Excellent section if you just want to go learn about like money and stuff that we've covered in other books. But for this one specifically, Thomas Sowell says that if you're someone who deals in multiple currencies, you by nature are a speculator because the value of currencies is always constantly in flux. And to even take it one step further, he says it can be both in one direction, but it can also be in both directions simultaneously. So, for example, the US dollar could be very strong relative to like an Argentinian peso, but it could also be losing ground compared to like the Japanese yen. It's this idea that all the different currencies are tied to different things. Therefore, they kind of free float based on the value of the currencies, but more importantly, the value of what that currency can buy inside of its own country and outside of it. Whether it's based on a currency that's gold backed, so it's very limited, aka there can only be so much as much gold as that government that issues it controls, or it could be a free fiat currency that is mostly inflationary. Theoretically, it could be deflationary, but history shows they're mostly inflationary, so the values are constantly in flux. Does that sound like a certain kind of market that you and I may or may not dabble with?
It sounds like a fucking degenerate market, if you ask me, man. Like when you're in the currency world, you're in the currency world, and I think we have the I don't want to say the blessing of learning about liquidity and price fluctuations and everything, but we're getting like 10 years worth of education stuffed into about 2 and 3 week time periods when we're sitting through these cryptocurrency dips and rises and learning about liquidity, learning about Hart's law, learning about how like cycles work and
Ratio trading, baby.
ratio trading, like what is value, what is a currency, what is like what is a trade. Like, man, we get all this stuff packed into such a tiny little world here in the cryptosphere that it's like you're just thrown into the ring, and you're just like, hey, good luck, sink or swim, broski. You're gonna either lose a lot of money or you're gonna lose a lot of money and learn something. So that's the those are the two scenarios.
That's true.
But
Thomas
yeah,
Sowell
bro.
doesn't call us out by name, but he does call us out pretty good here, which is that the finance or currency trading of the past is pretty much what cryptocurrency trading is, because there's a lot of different cryptocurrencies out there. And yes, the market is largely correlated to the overall market, which is led by Bitcoin. But at the same time, individual tokens can pump on their own independently of everything else going on. So
Yep.
that is where you get that the famous three body problem, if you will, which is like if you have two, like if you have a planet and another planet, the gravitational force is very similar. But once you introduce that third body, all the different forces on each other become a lot more questionable, similar to currency and cryptocurrency, which is that not everything is perfectly correlated. So there are going to be certain times in the market where like Solana does better than everything else, or there's going to be times where Bitcoin does it better than everything else. And there could also be times where everything is correlated and it's all crashing. That kind of stuff happens. It's nothing new under the sun. There you go. And Thomas Sowell calls it out here.
Man, I don't
What do
know
you
what
think
to
about
add on top of that. That's fucking good, man. That's I got nothing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right.
That's good. No. So like,
I'm not saying that this book is going to make you an expert on trading cryptocurrency, but if you can understand this one concept, which he talks about in the book, it is very, very, very applicable to cryptocurrency markets because it's the exact same thing. It is not physical currencies, it is digital currencies that are backed by a blockchain. Pretty much
and
that's it. You got to
and
understand where the value is. Understand that it's not the number of tokens, it is the value of those tokens, the proper allocation of value inside the market.
and the way that you make money in anything is you find the inefficiency and you take advantage of the opposite side of what everyone else is doing. So like
Boom.
the only way that you make money in the cryptosphere is you buy something right now that's going to be valuable later. Why is it not valuable right now? Maybe people are being emotional and they're selling. Maybe there's a bad story, maybe whatever the fuck, right? And like, are we any good at predicting the future? Kind of. We've got a whole lot of things that we can work with, like the 4 year cycle. We've got the business cycle. We've got the M2 money supply, the global liquidity, all of that stuff. There's a lot of things that have super heavy correlation with the Bitcoin cycle and with the altcoins and everything else. So like we can work with a whole bunch of data. But basically, like the whole idea of making money in cryptocurrency and making money in anything in general is you got to buy diamonds when other people are think that the diamonds are worth dog shit and they're selling them for pennies. You don't buy a diamond for a diamond price and then wait for the diamond to go up to 2 times diamond value and then sell it. That's not how you're going to make a bunch of money. The way that you make money is you wait for the market, like for the diamond market to be like, oh my god, everyone's getting rid of all their diamonds ever, and nobody wants diamonds and nobody wants to buy. That's when you buy. Is when you do the opposite thing that everyone else is doing, and that's the only way you generate value in the speculation world, in the degenerate online cryptocurrency gambling trades, whatever the hell, is you find the thing that everyone else isn't doing. You find the inefficiency, you find the place where there is like where there's a disparity between the value and the price, and you take action. So when the value of an item is like crazy stupid high, higher than it should be because too many people are excited and happy and euphoric, and it's like, aha, perhaps this is time for me to offload because this is getting pretty fucking sketchy right now. And when the value of the thing is down in the dumps and down in the gutter and nobody wants to buy it, then that's the time to buy it because nobody wants to. You're just taking advantage of the inefficiency in the system. It's the same thing as like if a dude finds a shit ton of like scrap metal and rubber and free air conditioning and storage space, and he assembles a bicycle for $5, knowing that like at some point he can sell this bicycle for $100. You know, like he happens upon a scenario where he sees something that's going to be valuable, he can get it for super cheap, and then he does the thing, whatever, whether it's like whether it's patience, whether it's interjecting his skills and his labor and his and his time and attention into something to make it more valuable, or whatever the hell. The way that people make money is they find efficiencies, or they find inefficiencies, and they hop on the other side of it and they eliminate the inefficiency, and then they send it off to the regular market that's just doing its normal thing. So
True.
that's my
By the way, Will,
go
do
ahead.
you know if lithium batteries are recyclable?
No, or maybe I
Ah,
don't know.
fun fact, they're not yet, but that is not stopping people from speculating on it. There are actually entire companies right now that are built up on buying old lithium batteries out of Teslas and just stockpiling them because they're anticipating or speculating, to use the Thomas Sowell word, that the technology to recycle this kind of stuff will be in the future sometime.
Hey,
To tie this
you know,
back into us here, the thing is that one of the ways that you can argue to your spouse that no, I'm not just buying internet quarters, what you're doing is speculating. One of the things that I personally do is when I look at projects in cryptocurrencies to invest in, is I want to make sure it looks like it has actual good technology, good foundation behind it, and it has product market fit. Maybe not now, but in the future. So that way, if people actually start building projects on it and it starts taking off, I have now speculated into the future use of this thing, therefore will receive the reward there. So again, Thomas Sowell doesn't directly call out the crypto folks, but this is the way that I think that our worldview or our activity, if you will, fits into the view that he's talking about here. And what we're really, and not just us, but a lot of people try to articulate with why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. We're doing what we're
Alrighty,
doing.
Will.
We want to get rich. We're taking the
final-
opposite side of the trade. We're gambling. Or speculating. Would be
Speculating, not gambling. Gambling is injection of your own risk.
Mhm.
All right, Will, final topic here for you. So, pop quiz. The current minimum wage, this is hypothetical, current minimum wage is about $12. The government passes a law to raise minimum wage to $15. What does this law do?
Oh, it creates unemployment. That's what it does.
Well, there you go. What the answer you're going to get from the politicians, the people that tell you that they're going to pass it, is, oh, the people working minimum wage, you're now going to get a $3 wage. Incorrect. What that law does is it makes it illegal to pay people $12 an hour for a minimum wage. Instead,
Correct.
the now requirement to now be legal is $15. So this gets into the final point that I wanted to bring up, which is, where did it go?
Where does the money come from?
Consequences
When that $3 is shit out of a
consequences
legislation.
versus intentions.
Yep.
You can intend for something to do a thing that you want, but you got to be very careful, especially at the governmental level when you're passing laws about it. You got to look at what the things actually do, not what you wish them to do.
Man, I really don't believe that they have an intention for anything other than to get reelected. I don't think that they have an intent like, okay, so maybe I'll give them some credit and just say like, yeah, they don't understand cause and effect. They're just like oblivious. They have their heads buried in the sand. They don't know what's going on. But like anyone with a lick of common sense knows that like when you increase the price of something without increasing the value, then you get less of the thing. You get less of the object, right? When the government says, now this thing costs $3 more, it's like, okay, where does that $3 come from? Does it come from you, the Mr. Government Man? Does it come from the customer? Does it come from the employer? Does it come from the employee? The correct answer is it comes from the market. It comes from the consumer, right? So that money being spent, the government is not a part of that money spending process. When the government says, hey, this thing costs this much and I'm paying for it, then congratulations, it's still the consumer that's paying for it. It's still the market. It's still the taxpayer. It's still everyone. That money comes from somewhere. And all that they do is they just say less people are now eligible because the number of pie units that, like, if I have 100 units, right, and there's only 100 units of work available, and each person gets paid 10 units per work, then I can hire 10 people. And if the government says, like, hey, congratulations, minimum number is now 20, well, I still have 100 units of value. So now I can only hire 5 people. So just the super duper basic simple math is that the increase of minimum wage decreases the number of workers, and it removes the unskilled workers from the working area where they could be doing something and now they're doing nothing. And it makes everyone's life better when you're a skilled worker. When you see minimum wage going up and you're a skilled worker, you're like, oh fuck, hell yeah, I'm making more money because now I have a desperate market and there's less potential employees that I'm going to be competing with. So if I'm an employee, then I'm happy. If I'm an employer, I'm like, whatever. I hire less people and I take a little bit of flack. It doesn't matter to me. I still have the same number of product I have to sell. I still have the same number of whatever the hell. Like the employer is not going to go out with this incentive and be like, oh, now that my employee cost has increased by 20%, or what is it? So yeah, 20%, 25%. My employee cost has increased by 25%. I better go find 25%. I better go shit 25% more value out of the market. Right? No, the boss, the employer is already trying to squeeze the market for the maximum amount of value that he can extract. And so you can't just create 25% more value. You have to cut 25% of cost. And
Or you
that's
have to innovate and gain back that. So
yes.
this
In
is
which
from
case the
from the
customer
business
pays for it.
side. This is where we see the infamous example of like all the McDonald's and all the Walmarts. You don't have cashiers. You now have self checkout items. Aisles,
Which
excuse me.
is probably inevitable anyways, right? So like
Eh,
um
there's two ways to tackle that. One, you could say, is that if you were mandated by an outside force that has the legal authority to come take you to jail or shoot you if you resist,
There
that
you
that
go.
is now an increased cost. Or theoretically, if the technology becomes more readily available and progresses on its own, then therefore you could use that instead. So those are kind of the two ways I look at that one.
Yeah. Mandated forced innovation is probably, I would say that forced innovation is probably less valuable than organic innovation from a governmental perspective. If you're in like a time of war or something, then it's like, then that's super valuable because um create or die is much different than like create or get taxed,
Yeah,
when you put the
different
real
evolutionary
pressure.
pressures there.
Exactly, and I think that that's a big reason why Europe like innovated and that culture moved so quickly compared to other cultures in the world, is because there was more war going on in Europe for the entire duration. Like this is just a theory that I have. I could be totally wrong. Like a place like Hawaii, where there's not a whole lot of war going on. They're just happy and they're eating their pineapples and they're doing these things. Along comes this war country where it's like, hey, we've got all this war that we do. It's like, oh, you're ours now because we want your pineapples. And the Hawaiians are like, no, oh wait, we can't fight you. Fuck. Well, I guess we do belong to you now. All right. Well, here's our taxes money, and like come burn down
Fair
our
enough.
lands and everything. Anyways, I'm gonna go on a tangent here if you
About
don't stop me.
consequences versus intentions, I have a story for you. You're probably
Yeah.
familiar with this one. Back when the British were in charge of India, they realized, oh wow, there's a massive problem. There's too many of these cobra snakes, and they're kind of dangerous. We want to get rid of them.
I know
So,
exactly
Will,
where you're going.
Will,
Yes,
what did they do? What was the
they
decision they made to get rid of the snakes?
they put a bounty on the
Ah,
snakes. So they
so
said,
if we
hey,
put a bounty on these snakes, then like theoretically, people will hunt them and they'll get rid of them. Like that's what we want them to do, right?
oh, so that's what we want them to do. But what we did was we said, hey, now there's a supply and demand problem.
We
Government
created
has
a market.
infinite amount of $10 that they could give you for every snake head that you can collect. And so what do the people do? The people go and they start breeding cobras. So that way they can get as many $10 as possible. So they capture a couple like wild ones and they create these fucking cobra breeding pens. And now you have an even bigger snake problem because the government said, hey, we're paying you for snakes, baby. So it's
There
fucking
you
it,
go.
it's a
Consequences versus intentions.
so there's something beautiful that can happen with this too. On the flip side of the perspective, in places where they do gun buybacks, it's very cheap and easy to 3D print a weapon nowadays. It's not as easy as it used to be. And again, guys, nothing here is financial advice. Nothing here is life advice. You can go to Home Depot and you can buy probably like $10 worth of pipe, and you can get a $75 gift card for a gun buyback program. All you need is two pieces of pipe to make a gun. Two pieces of pipe and an end cap. Go Google a 4-wind shotgun. I'm not going to explain to you how to do it live on stream because then we'll get banned and things. But like
Yes.
with gun buyback programs, you've got a money printer. You've got a government that's saying, hey, we're going to buy these things so that way we get more guns off the street. And so what do people do? They go and they make super cheap guns and they sell them to the government. That's
The
a very,
intention
very popular thing that
the
happens.
intention of the gun buyback is to get those dangerous guns off the street. But instead,
so-
what you've done is you now have created a market for the cheapest possible functional firearm that you can turn into the authorities for money.
And now you've got more people with the know-how of how to make super cheap firearms, which is a good thing if you ask me, but it's a bad thing if you're Mr. Government Man and you want less people to have guns. So like the 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 moral of all of these explanations and all these stories is that the government is not entirely incompetent, but the government will very often do incompetent things that has the exact opposite of the intended result. That's not to say that all the government's bad or all the government is stupid. There's a lot of the government that's very smart and very clever. Stay away from those those gentlemen that are spooks up there at the what is
Spooky
Sock
boy
call it?
operators.
Spooky boy operators at the ATF, the Phoebe and the Kia.
Hey, you got to watch out. The Postal Service has their own tactical unit. I'm just saying.
Yeah, dude. I was watching a thing with Rand Paul, where Rand Paul was grilling the FDA Rand Paul was going through a budget approval for the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. You know what the FDA wanted? They wanted 20,000 M4s and M16s and like 100 million rounds of ammunition. And it's like, what the fuck is the FDA going to be doing with 20,000 M6 like AR-15 style rifles? You know, it's like, what is the government? What does the FDA need? Oh, are they going to go raid some Amish farms so that way they can throw people in jail for having for selling unregistered milk or whatever the hell it is?
Eggplants, those dangerous eggplants.
Dude, so anyways, like the government's going to do a lot of crazy terrible things if you allow it to, and like they create markets. So if you're an entrepreneurial minded person, you could take advantage of these very, very unintelligent things that the government will do. And
it's not just the government though. It's whenever you're making any sort of economic decision, you got to look beyond the intentions. You got to look at the first, second, and third order effects about whatever is going to happen that you're doing. Because exactly, it's all about incentives. Just because you do one thing doesn't mean it's going to go exactly as you think. People will take it to the logical conclusion because the market assumes that people are rational operators and they will find the most efficient way to use their time and capital. So if you invent a new way for them to use their time and capital, you are incentivizing them to do so if it is in their benefit, regardless of whether or not it's in your benefit.
And from a leadership perspective, right? If I'm gonna give the government some advice here, you don't address the symptoms, you address the illness. So if you want, like, if the government of India wants all the snakes gone, instead of saying, "Hey, I'll give you $1 for every snake," if they say, "Hey, if this thing is snake free by this time, then we're gonna get this great awesome thing. We're gonna give every single Indian citizen a free ice cream if there's no more snakes." You know, if the snakes are gone, then da-da. And maybe that has some other third order of effects, kind of like Mao Zedong ordering that all the crows be killed because they're eating the crops, and then all of a sudden all the bugs swarm and they kill everything else, and it's just like, perhaps there's unseen circumstances, but like, if you address the illness and not the symptoms, with the gun buybacks, the real problem is that there's crime and there's people dying, right? And there's people getting killed with guns. So like, what do they say? Instead of doing gun buybacks, which is just like, it's taking the tool away, or it's taking a tool away, it's not taking the tool away. If you want the violence and the stuff to stop, then you teach people how to resist violence, and you give them the opportunity to resist violence. You teach them how to use guns, and you show them where to buy guns, and you give them access to the information and stuff. And you say like, hey, violent criminals, whatever the hell. Like you incentivize the result rather than incentivizing one of the steps to get to the result. Something like that. So just from a leadership perspective, if you want something to happen, then incentivize that end result. Don't incentivize like how you get there. Something just my 2 cents.
Fair enough. Tell you what, Will, let's go ahead and hit a few more chats.
Let's hit the fucking chat. So we've got quite a few.
Moondog's got a couple good ones here.
Yeah. So which one do you want to say? Okay, Bop It.
Speculators.
Ooh, give me a timestamp past the top of the hour.
7:39.
39. Oh, this one. Okay. Don't worry about the hour because we're in different time zones. Just tell me 39. Yeah.
Fair enough. These definitions. We are all speculators. We deal in multiple currencies of our team: time, energy, attention, money. Thoughts, emotions, actions, manifestations build our life. Well said, sir. Thomas Sowell actually addresses this point in the book, talking about a guy that has been washing cars for a long time to put himself through night school to be a doctor. But now that he's a doctor, should he be washing his car because he has the ability to, or is it just not worth his time, energy, attention, or money at that point?
I'm gonna give a shout out to my brother.
Elsewhere.
Shout out to my brother Sam. So Sam, if you're watching this stream, which I doubt because you're a valuable man with valuable time.
Hey, wow, we will.
Well, okay, wow, we.
These are valuable people out here.
They are valuable people. I will say that for sure. But Sam has exponentially like increased his value from a business perspective because he's hired an assistant. He's honed down on his time. He's out there like literally just cranking out models, cranking out work, cranking out architectural plans for people super fucking fast. He's hired a person to like do his laundry, cook his meals, take care of all of the like the low priority things that don't generate money, and he's literally just like generating money. I don't want to say 24/7, but like
Pretty
maybe
darn
20,
close.
23/6 something, right? Like Sam is just doing nothing but grinding and working on his business of giving people plans, giving people super fast responses when they need things changed on their house plans and stuff. So he's found a market, he's found a need. The market is the builders that like create the houses and things, and the need is like they're always waiting on the damn designers and the architects to finish the plans for the house before they can do anything. And so what does Sam do? He's like, hey, my whole thing is I get you fast plans. I can get plans cranked out in no time whatsoever. So like they send him the plans, he fixes it in like 3 to 5 hours, and boom, he's made a couple $1,000 or something like that. So he's working on his networking and his marketing. But the whole point is he's hired someone to take care of his non-value producing logistics things that happen throughout the day. So like hiring an assistant, if you're like a serious business person who just wants to focus 24/7 on the grind, you focus on all the things that make you money and you take your attention away from the things that don't make you money. This is like what the traditional nuclear marriage used to look like is the man would go out and do all the things that generate value, and the woman would take care of the things that the husband needs to stay alive. You know, the house, the kids, the food, the laundry, the whatever the hell. She's solving all these problems that the money making person is out there like not able to solve, and then money making person comes home and he's like, congratulations, I have all this money. Let's like, spend a couple hours having fun every day. And then, I'm going back to the fucking grind and I'm gonna go fucking crank, 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 do all the crazy things and then come back and yada yada yada. So uh
Thomas Sowell would call that where multiple people exchange goods and services in the ways that they're best as utilizing competitive advantage. So
yeah.
you were best at something, so therefore it makes more sense to spend more time doing the thing you're good at and then trading it with someone else who's doing something that they are very good at.
That's the whole idea of the traditional marriage system is like men are good at going out there and doing war with the world in order to gain goods and services, and then women are like generally more good at home taking care of and dealing with people and producing life and creating beauty and peace and everything. And so that's what they would focus on. And so when you have each of the people playing to their own strengths, then they can both work together as a team in order to create this great system of life and moving forward and stuff. Not to like be misogynistic or anything, but like I think that that's a really important thing that people would do well to focus on is playing to your strengths. If you're a person that goes out there and does war with the world, then you should go out there and do war with the world and generate money. And if you're a person that's good at like creating beautiful, loving home like atmospheres, then like, hey, if you do that instead of going and working at Starbucks and getting tired all day, then like perhaps you could just find yourself a person who's better at doing war with the world and makes a ton of money, and then you can solve their other like peace problems and reputation and food and longevity and legacy and all those other sorts of things. Then the world could be a better place, and like you can conquer the world as a team, not as like an equal partnership, because an apple is not equal to a crowbar, right? Everything has its use case and has its strengths and its weaknesses. But like competitive advantage, I like that. I like that phrase, Zenith. So that's what I got. We've
That's
also
an official economic term, by the way.
oh, excellent. I like
Yes,
that.
specifically when we're talking about international trade, it's that certain countries are good at producing certain things, so it's worthwhile for them to spend more of their efforts creating those things and then trading for the rest.
hmm We've
But
got
again, to bring it back to the other Thomas Sowell quote, nations don't trade with each other, individuals trade with individuals.
correct, and the nations just get in the way, and
A little
all
bit,
that the
yeah.
individuals have to do is just like stay out of the way of the individual or out of the way of the nations, and you're all going to be good. We got to keep going off the chat shadow.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna,
save the other Moondog big ones for the end. Hexglen
okay.
is a good one. I said bring back the what did I say? Bring back the Pizza Hut red drink cups.
Oh,
You know the one.
yep, there we
Then
go.
as he was Hexglen was saying the red plastic cup that would crack or chip. And I channeled some inner Moondog and I said the beauty of the red cups is that their lifespan is fleeting. Enjoy them while you got them.
Okay, I think
By the way, speaking of competitive advantage, L. Trotsky, 21st Century, came in there. He said his competitive advantage is that he's very good at making battery acid in a factory for $2 an hour.
hey, there you go. That's Oh, he's Trotsky. Ah, I get it.
I think Mark is probably corrected me on this one. Comparative advantage, not competitive advantage. I
Comparative
cannot
advantage.
remember which one it is. It could be either one.
Like,
I'll
hey,
take your word for it though.
comparative advantage sounds it sounds more accurate because comparative is contrasting, and then competitive is like going at it or something. So I like that. Either way, we get the
I'll
idea.
double check my sources. Yes.
What's in her name? That by which we call a rose. The fleeting. I liked your response to this. The beauty of the red cups is that their lifespan is fleeting. Enjoy them while you got them. Yes, everything breaks eventually, guys. Like this camera that I'm using to record. We're not going to be streaming here forever. I've got maybe 20,000 days of life left in me before I die. Right? Like eventually, this stream is going to end. Eventually, this beer will be empty. Eventually, everything these red solo cups will be all gone. They are fleeting. So enjoy everything in life while you have it. Build those beautiful gardens. Um, what were we?
What else we got?
What did you? Okay, so we've got a couple quotes from Moondog here. We've got some quotes from Mr. Latrosky. So they're going back and forth right now. So we'll start from the furthest back one right here.
The question: where does money come from? And the other question: where does it go? Spoiler alert: it both comes from and goes to value, which has more than one eye.
Yes. So
That's
money comes from value and it goes to value. And the important thing to think of there is the two different perspectives from both the buyer and the seller. The buyer and the seller each think that they're getting a better deal in the transaction of the two things, that like the money for the item or the money for the different money, or whatever the hell. Each person thinks that they are gaining from this transaction. And that's the important way that you get transactions happening. If one person thinks they're getting fucked, then they're not going to partake and they're going to walk away and do something else. So
that is the fundamental basis of all trade: is both parties willing to engage for something that they want, that they see as valuable.
Super subjective. I like it.
Will's leadership advice to governments is the same advice I wish some crypto devs I am dealing with would hear. I've watched more than one project fail from well-intentioned interference.
Yeah. Yep. You gotta try not to interfere. You want to incentivize the result. You don't want to incentivize the. I presume that's what you're talking about, Moondog. Correct me if I'm wrong, broski. But yeah, that's a good one, bro. And then so Trotsky with the battery acid, and then he had this one in response.
How do you determine what a person's strengths are when they have no opportunity to engage in them because they have to pay rent with a crap job?
It's not your job to determine what someone else's strengths are. It's their job to come to you and say, "These are my strengths, and I do them. Will you pay me money?" The impetus is not on you to find out what other people have. The impetus is on them to show you what they have, and then to reward them when they solve your problems. So, from an employer perspective, from a parenting perspective, it's a little bit different. But from an employer perspective, you know, it's not your job to go out and find the people. I mean, it kind of is, because if you want employees, then so be it. But like, you're out there you should be out there trying to find proven things, not trying to like find the diamond in the rough and take advantage of it.
I
That's my own
understand
perspective.
I understand the sentiment behind the question, which what he's talking about is time is scarce here, but at the same time also has requirements to live. So the only current available trade is to trade somewhat inefficiently time for money in order to pay for the things that you need. And it's again, a lot of different factors that go into it. And I think that this is one of the sentiments that's largely become very prevalent in this society today, which is like cost of rent is increasing tremendously. Food prices are only going up. Wages have been largely stagnant. And it's that is the issue that we've been dealing with in the 21st century, I think. Although honestly, it's been going on since the 70s, I think.
Moondog has a really good response to this. I'm gonna take this if you don't mind. Latrosky, you reconsider. I'm gonna presume he meant C because the F is right next to the C. You reconsider your assumptions and frame to find the limiting beliefs that are keeping you trapped. Absolutely, you have to reframe things. If you are stuck, then you need to reframe. If you're trapped in a loop, then you need to change what you're doing to get out of that loop. And the easiest thing to change is the way that you look at stuff, is the way that you think about things, the way that you consider stuff. So if you're stuck trying trying to find things in a crappy job or whatever the hell, then you have to turn that crappy job into a not crappy job. How do you turn that job into a crappy job? Well, the only reason that it is defined as a crappy job is because you think it's a crappy job. It's all up here, right? A homeless person looks at the same $5 bills as a non-homeless person, and the homeless person probably values that $5 bills a whole lot more. He can get a lot of crack for that five. He can get, oh, I don't know how much crack you can get these. I don't know the street prices for crack, but he can at least get a fifth, or he can at least get a like a really shitty 40 for $5, and he can go and do stuff. It's all inside your head. When you think that something is crap, it's all up here. You have to change the way that you think about things. You have to determine, you have to say, like, you know what? I don't think this is crap. I think this is actually great. And I'm going to extract the maximum amount of value from my own perspective. Because if you get stuck in this cycle of negative thinking and determining that, like, the world that I live in is horrible and terrible, then you're going to infect yourself with this aura of negativity. And then you're not going to be able to turn all of the negative things that are happening into lessons that you can learn from and that you can do better from. And you're also going to infect the people around you with the negative thinking, and then it's just going to make it even worse for you because they're going to reflect it back to you. So the first thing you do is you have to fix yourself, right? So reframing, just like Moondog was saying, find the limiting beliefs and reconsider your assumptions and your frame on all of them. So that's what I got there. And then two more from Moondog, and then I presume we'll wrap it up here. Will, incentivizing is a superior tactic versus expecting, manufacturing, and otherwise coercing. I agree. It's all about the incentives. It's all about the honey and the honey, not the stick. And then Zenith, you take this last one, and then we'll continue.
On second thought, maybe not superior to manufacturing in all cases. Genuine production has value, but there is a lot of synthetic manufacturing. Sense?
There we go.
Excellent. Alrighty, sir. Excellent here. Focus on the good things, baby.
100%, broski. All right. Take it away, Z.
Well, on our 0 to 10,000 hours mastery scale, we already talked about this one. We both gave it a 5 to 10 hour rating, saying that we think this book is very good for early on in your journey, career, growth, education, whatever you want to call it, with regards to being a bit of a cryptocurrency investor or just person operating in the real world as an adult. But why do you? Let's reiterate. Why do you put this book so high up on that list?
Because it's got like on the list of things you need to read early.
Yeah.
Because it is basic information. It's starting information. This is the sort of thing that will maximize your ability to understand. Like, we know this stuff because we've been dragged through hell and back over the last 4 years, 5 years, whatever the hell, right? We know this stuff because we were taught with, like, the pain methodology. We got the Hansei, or as the Japanese would say. I don't, probably misusing that word. Don't care. We've gone through hell and back to get these lessons, and so we already know this stuff, a lot of it. And so for us, this is preventative maintenance education. This is PME. But the for the person that doesn't know all this stuff, that's just starting out today, this would be a great book for you to really build a rock solid foundation of your understanding of delayed gratification, person to person interaction, and markets and everything in terms of the finance world. This is a great starting point, and I can't stress it enough that, like, if you've got questions, this book sets you up to be able to answer a lot of the simple stuff, and it'll give you a really good foundational knowledge upon which you can build your entire financial literacy for the future. So that's what I got for that. It's just elementary, you know. And
I said it.
You got to learn your letters before you can learn cursive.
It's
right?
true.
And we've been smacked in the face with cursive words for the past 4 years, so we kind of learned letters as a result of that. And so not everybody needs to pay the same price as we did in our education. And so, you know, perhaps there's something to be said for the value of getting smacked in the face when you're learning. But
that's true. The book is thick. Getting through it in a single read is a very daunting task. I would highly recommend to people to use this as a reference tool, which is that if you have a question about a very specific economic concept, go look it up. And I think the genius of this book is that it's the genius of smart people who you know are smart, because they have all the knowledge, all the experience, and they understand all these crazy concepts. But Thomas Sowell is very good at boiling it down into things that are understandable to people that don't need all the thousands of hours of research beforehand. He can break down the concepts and explain them clearly and concisely very well. Additionally, a lot of historical examples. And the thing that I like the most about this book is he tackles counterpoints, which is that he gives you common arguments that you may encounter, and then actually breaks down what they are and why they don't apply, or what is being overlooked when people are making those arguments in the first place. So I think it's a very good book because it's intuitive, it's communicated very well, and it covers a vast amount of topics. And he's very consistent with the principles that are applied to everything altogether. He does talk about it's a massive web, it's giant, it's intertwined, it's convoluted, it's complicated, but at the end of the day, there are core concepts that are universal and consistently apply to all the different topics that he talks about. So with that being said, that is why I put it super highly at like the 5 to 10 hour mark. Like if this is like one of the first 5 books you read about economics or investing, I think this is going to do you some good.
And here's what I think folks should do is don't try and consume this book all at once. Like Z was saying, use it as a reference.
As two guys that have tried doing that, we know.
We almost succeeded. We were both about 15 minutes away before show start. So there you guys go.
Probably
we were able to crunch it
and finish it out.
Yeah, we crunched it in one day, or at least I crunched it in one day.
I did 2 days.
Okay, well you were the wiser for doing so. But like if you consume this, so don't do as we do because we're the pros, right? We've consumed 66 books so far, 66-ish book club worth books.
Probably about 60.
We've consumed a bunch of information, so we're pros at consuming information, or we're at least maybe not pros, but we are experienced. So with that being said, like we have the capability. For those of you that don't read books all the time, take this book one chapter at a time because each chapter is chock-a-block full of great information, great examples, and great explanation. It's perfect for all you peanut brain, diamond hand, middle of the bell curve, 100 IQ folks out there, such as myself. Like Thomas Sowell, like Zenith was saying, he explains this stuff in a very palatable language that we can all understand. So he's a smart guy, and he's a translator for taking smart concepts and putting him into like dumb Barney knuckle dragon Marines kind of words there. So you've got 2 former military guys here saying that like this book is a great book, and me and Zenith both have had our fingers in probably plenty of SOPs and plenty of turnover binders, and so we understand that the value of simple language, and that's what Thomas really takes this book. He boils down the complicated ideas, turns it into simple language, gives you real world examples, and then like explains a bunch of the principles of stuff that's going to build you a really great foundation of knowledge. So 10 out of 10, totally recommend it. I would put this book in S tier for sure.
Oh yeah,
in our book tier list.
I believe our S tier when we did our annual review was Galaxy Brain.
Yeah, Galaxy Brain.
There you go. Excellent. Alrighty, folks. I've been Zenith and will continue to be so into the near future and hopefully longer than that. But you can more importantly find me over on X and Instagram at ZenithDI. Additionally, if you scan the QR code down there, you can get into the DGen Roundtable Telegram group where you can come hang out with us, chat, ask any questions, shoot us an @ send us any memes you got, or if you have pew pew hole punchers, we also love seeing those as well in the appropriate channel. But that is what we got. Folks, thank you so much for joining. Will, where can the folks find you, and what do we got going on in the near future?
The folks can find me and all of my socials off of the Pulse Chain Linktree, will.pls.fyi. That is where all of my stuff is at. You can get my Twitter, my YouTube, my Facebook, everything over there. As far as what's going on in the near future, you guys should go check out RH Max's thing that he's got going on. So go to RH Max on Twitter. And hang on, I think I actually, is it in my, it's not on my quick links. I got to put you on my quick link things, Max. Anyways, go check out what he's doing. He's doing some great stuff Monday and Tuesday. Also, shout out to Hexagon Lost in Asia, who's showing up. Thanks for the show, DGens. Glad that we can have you with us, Hexagon. As far as stuff going on in the near future,
I can actually cover this one. We got the Sunday show coming up. 8 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. Fun fact, on Friday today, we got released that the inflation for June was 2.4%, which is an excellent reading, is only about 0.1% higher for the year over year than last month, which we'll talk about that. And the fact that the U.S. government is having Crypto Week next week, where they're going to be talking about the Genius Act, the stablecoin bill, and the anti-CBDC potential legislation. So all that's going to be coming up on the Sunday show. Outside of that, though, on Wednesday, Will, I believe you're going to be hosting another Whiskey Wednesday.
Yes, I will be hosting Whiskey Wednesday, where we will be talking to people about things. So I'm all about friendship and community and stuff. So Whiskey Wednesday is where you guys can just come and fucking hang out. Again, 8 p.m. Eastern, DJ Roundtable. You know, wherever you guys are watching us right now, just keep watching us there. Wednesday we got guests. Friday we're doing book club. Sunday we're covering the news. The next book that we're going to be doing for book club. I'm scrolling through all of our suggestions right now. It's going to be Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. So there you guys go.
Ooh.
Zenith likes to cover the economics books. I like to cover the people books. It's fucking perfect. If only. So it's like those three things that I was talking about earlier. You've got dealing with people, you've got dealing with money, and you've got dealing with health. If only there was someone that we knew that knew how to deal with health. Oh wait, we've got that. We've got the DGen Roundtable Health stream where we got Agent J, we got Mrs. McGettit, we sometimes have Dr. Alan Chen coming in. So stick around with the DGen Roundtable. We're covering everything that you guys like. I like salesmanship. I like dealing with people. I like relationships and all that stuff. Zenith likes economics and macro and all that great stuff. And so like you guys can catch a lot of the cool stuff that we're doing here on the DGen Roundtable. But the next book that we're doing is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. It's a fantastic book that teaches you guys how to do good negotiation, how to
I've
learn
heard
to
good
speak
things
to
about this
people.
one.
Dude, it's fantastic, man. I think you're gonna love it. I know that I love it. I've read this book like 3 or 4 times, and it's fantastic. I follow Chris Voss on Instagram. I check his tweets out. Like he is a master of people manipulation. And when I say manipulation, I don't mean in the negative aspect. I mean in the positive aspect. So the important thing to do with like interacting with people is making sure that they feel good from the interaction and that they get the outcome that they want. And sometimes we're great at doing that, sometimes we fail. But we'll learn more and we'll find more on next week's book club. So you guys can catch us here again Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. DGen Roundtable, youtube.com/DGen Roundtable. My name is Will Stevenson. This is Zenith Broski. Go ahead and do the thing. Let's roll through it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for spending time with us here this evening. And every time you do so, we want to make sure that we thank you for spending your time here with us. Because as Agent Jason says, we know that time is your most valuable asset. And we want to thank you every time you spend it here with us. So with that being said, we hope you had an excellent Friday, an excellent book club, talking about excellent stuff. And until we catch you guys next time, I hope that everyone out there continues to degen responsibly.
Oh shit, I gotta press 2 buttons. Damn.